Yo legends! Welcome back to the channel. Grab your headphones and lock in, because today's story is on another level. Want the next chapter? Drop a comment below, and if the legend continues, I'm bringing it straight to you. Disclaimer: I do not claim ownership of this story. All rights belong to the original creators. Note: I'm constantly tweaking the settings to make it as immersive as possible. One Pace, the Navy's 8-year-old tech maniac. Page 41. Sizzling high in the sky, a strange sound came from the gaps between the two men's fists. The powerful aftermath even caused a gust of wind to blow all around. Boom! Exclamation! The violent collision sound resounded throughout the world. After the violent collision, the yellow flash was only in the sky and was knocked back several meters. You actually blocked my attack with 70% of my strength. Admiral-level combat capability, for sure. There's no need to continue competing. A dazzling light flashed in Carp's eyes, and he said in shock. The high-ranking naval officers who were watching the battle were all extremely shocked and gave fierce comments on the yellow flash. How powerful! Lieutenant General, he exclaimed. Such terrifying combat power is worthy of being a general-level Seraphim. Sakaski swallowed his saliva and said excitedly. Being able to take on 70% of Garp's iron fist, he undoubtedly has the strength of an Admiral. Aokiji also had a look of shock on his face. The Warring States period was almost grinning to the sky. How did you achieve the domineering haki? Jian Guo came to Xia Yu and asked in surprise. Xia Yu smiled. Because it contains the bloodline of Uncle Jian Guo, the owner of the domineering haki. I have specially modified and strengthened him, so naturally he can show the domineering color, Xia Yu said in a baby voice. Gulu, I don't understand it, but it looks really cool. As expected of Xia Yu, the top naval officials were shocked once again. I wonder if such a robot can be mass-produced. Jian Guo continued, asking expectantly. Of course, Uncle Jian Guo. As long as there is funding, with the current laboratory, it will not be a problem to produce a few more in a short period of time. Xia Yu murmured. What? It turns out that the lab is also affected, but updating the lab would be a huge expense. Jian Guo was very satisfied that he could produce it in a short period of time for several general-level Chishin to use. The rest can be dealt with slowly over time. I have waited for decades to wipe out the pirates in the world. What's the harm in waiting a little longer? Okay, then, produce at your maximum output, Jian Guo said with great satisfaction. Xia Yu, however, had a smile on his face. So this funding. Xia Yu rubbed her little hands and said this, looking extremely cute. Chapter 48. Kaido's sudden arrival. Xia Yu, great. I want Kaido's blood, ha ha ha. Xia Yu, don't worry about this, I'll go talk to the 5 elders. I can approve at least another 200 billion Baileys for you, Jian Guo said confidently. Just kidding, those old foxes among the 5 elders are very shrewd. Such a terrifying war machine, if it weren't for the limited production, they would be willing to take 500 billion berries. After hearing what Jian Guo said, Xia Yu couldn't help but licking his tongue. Be good, 200 billion Baileys. I've been waiting for you to say this. With this funding, I can develop new technologies. With this kind of robot, our navy will be even more powerful in the future. Vice Admiral, he said with joy. HMPH, from now on, I must lead a few seraphs to conquer all the pirates on the sea, Sakaski said solemnly with a grin on his face. Ace, who was being tied up by Seastone, opened his mouth wide. This kind of thing is really done. If the Navy has a few of these terrifying robots, it will be a huge threat to the 4 emperors, Ace said in disbelief. Drought Jack had an even more bizarre look on his face. Asshole. Those child robots are fine, but this damn Navy has actually developed an Admiral-level robot. Lord Kaido, what should we do? Jack the Drought said angrily with his eyes wide open. Drought Jack has no good feelings towards these robots that defeated him. Akenu, who was standing by, heard Jack's words and snorted coldly. Humph, you should just care more about yourselves. Afterwards, under the leadership of Xia Yu and the Mole, Jack the Drought and Ace were escorted directly and prepared to leave for the underwater prison immediately. As for Xia Yu, he naturally had his own reasons for going along. That is, to obtain more bloodline factors. The warring states gave me funding, and I could unlock so much technology. Among them is the Pirate King level Seraph. And this kind of Seraph requires a lot of bloodline factors. Therefore, Xia Yu, the purpose of this trip is to collect bloodline factors in advance. Just as Jack was being set up and ready to go, at this moment suddenly, dark clouds appeared in the sky. Bolts of lightning struck down from the sky without mercy. Rumble, rumble, exclamation. The sky, which was clear before, suddenly became extremely dark. Above the sky, a huge dragon head suddenly appeared, looking towards Xia Yu with a ferocious look on its face. Okay. Jan Guo and others suddenly raised their brows. Kaido the beast is coming. Vice Admiral Mole exclaimed. The huge blue dragon in the sky is Kaido's blue dragon form. At this time, the stationed troops in the science department of the naval headquarters showed expressions of horror one by one. Kaido is a frequent visitor here. Every time they came, they caused huge damage to the Navy headquarters. But there's nothing I can do. Kaido, this guy, relies on his blue dragon form and his own dragon scale defense, and is almost invincible. Even the hero of the Navy, Garp, and Marshal Sengoku, cannot kill Kaido. Relying on his immortality, Kaido was captured 18 times when he challenged the Navy alone. But even if Kaido was captured, the Navy still couldn't kill him. He was tortured over 1,000 times and sentenced to death 40 times. He would break his chains even if he was hanged, and would crush the guillotine even if he was taken to the guillotine. On the contrary, every time they come, they cause considerable damage to the Navy. Damn it! Kaido, that bastard, is he here to die again this time? But that bastard Kaido is practically unkillable. What's his purpose this time? Hurry up and find a way to repel that bastard Kaido. The stationed Navy officers looked at the huge dragon in the sky with expressions of horror. At the same time, Jack saw Kaido in the sky and smiled. Lord Kaido, please come and save me. See, this kid in front of me is Xia Yu. Jack roared loudly. What? The mole standing nearby heard Jack the Drought and actually revealed Xia Yu's identity. The armed haki gathered on his fist, and he punched Jack hard. When Kaido saw this scene, he became extremely angry. Is this the little devil? Look, he is just a kid. A mere 8-year-old kid created a robot that kidnapped the 3 calamities of his own beasts pirates. Page 42. Kaido suddenly felt angry and embarrassed, and the expression on his face could be said to be extremely angry. Rumble, bolts of lightning struck down from the sky recklessly. Let Jack out and execute Xia Yu. Otherwise, I will definitely cause chaos here. Kaido, who was in the sky, had veins bulging on his dragon head and spoke with fiery eyes. Xia Yu looked up at the sky and saw a huge dragon body covering the sky and blocking out the sun. The dragon scales all over the body are like layers of steel armor, indestructible. No wonder Kaido's defense is so strong. Xia Yu sighed with emotion, without the slightest fear. But there was a hint of smile on his face. Kaido's bloodline factor is indeed a rare and powerful material for creating Seraphim. Xia Yu, naturally, had no intention of fighting Kaido one-on-one. I am not a strong person, I am just a scientist. So Xia Yu smiled jokingly. Uncle Garp, can you help me control Kaido and take out a bottle of his blood? I need Kaido's bloodline factor, so that maybe a more powerful Seraph can be created. Xia Yu said in a baby voice. Chapter 49. Garp takes action to fight Kaido. Although Kaido is indeed a troublesome guy and will cause certain damage to the Navy, however, Kaido's own combat capability is not as strong as Whitebeard's. Kaido, the main thing about this guy is that you can't kill him, but he can still cause you some small troubles time and time again. For example, destroying your military fortifications or causing damage to your navy. For Kaido, Sengoku feels more disgusted than afraid. When Jan Guo heard Xia Yu's words, he looked at Kaido and suddenly he didn't feel disgusted anymore. Jan Guo, who had raised his brows slightly before, suddenly showed joy on his face. This guy Kaido actually has this advantage. Don't worry, we will definitely help you complete the task, Jan Guo said happily. If the Navy could obtain a more powerful Seraph, I'm afraid it would soar to the sky. Garp, Akenu and others also showed excited expressions. An even more powerful Seraph. Originally, the Admiral level Seraphim had already been successfully developed. If this continues to improve, wouldn't it be the legendary level of Seraph? In terms of combat power, at least it has to be Garp, at the Warring States level. Thinking of this, everyone was delighted. With a Seraph like this, once a few are mass-produced, we'll have the confidence to face pirates from all over the world. Don't worry, Xia Yu, I will definitely help you get his blood. Killing him might be difficult, but making Kaido bleed, I'm very good at it. Carp, with an excited look on his face, rubbed his hands and said, I saw that the Warring States below saw my arrival and were not afraid at all. Instead, they were very happy. Kaido became even more angry. It seems that it is almost impossible to ask the Navy to release Jack and hand Xia Yu over to him. Have you forgotten my fear? I am an invincible being. I can fail countless times, but I can't die, ha ha ha. Kaido was in the sky with a ferocious look on his face. A guy who even speaks in a baby voice actually made weapons that destroyed the Smile Factory. This is a huge shame and humiliation for himself and the Beast's pirates. So, when I fight later, I must kill Xia Yu, that 8-year-old kid. I don't know how to praise. In that case, don't blame me. Kaido, who was in the sky, roared next moment without any hesitation. Kaido opened his huge fangs. Then, a ball of hot flames began to gather in Kaido's mouth. The temperature of the entire surrounding area rose by more than 10 degrees because of this terrifying flame. Seeing Kaido in the sky and about to take action, Sengoku quickly began his battle plan. Garp, Akenu, Aikidi, go and fight. Kizaru, Vice Admiral Tsuru and I will stay here to protect Xia Yu, Jan Guo said seriously. This is naturally due to Kizaru's own considerations. For me now, whether Kaido captures me or not is irrelevant. Xia Yu's safety is the most important thing. If Xia Yu is fine, even if there are 10 Kaidos in the future, they can still use Seraph to defeat him. But without Xia Yu, the entire future of the Navy is gone. In this regard, the Warring States period was still able to distinguish what was more important. The reason why Kizaru was left behind was because of his ability to escape, and also because he was Xia Yu's younger brother, so he would definitely do his best to protect him. I and Vice Admiral Tsuru, who have certain protective abilities, are also very good candidates. Just rely on people like Garp and Akenu, who are good at attacking, to beat Kaido and get the bloodline factor. Xia Yu just gave a bitter smile. This level of treatment, I'm afraid even the celestial dragons have never enjoyed it. I never thought that one day I would be able to make generals and marshals my bodyguards. But then again, there's really no need for that. With so many Seraphim around me, what protection do I need? However, since Jan Guo has said so, I don't care. Anyway, I have only one goal, and that is Kaido's blood. Yellow Flash. The collection of Kaido's blood is now left to you. Xia Yu gave his orders to the Seraph. Then, a blood-collecting device was placed directly in the hand of the Yellow Flash. Uncle Garp, you just need to beat Kaido until he bleeds. The rest is left to the Yellow Flash, Xia Yu said in a baby voice. The battle plan has just been distributed. Kaido's scorching dragon breath was directed at everyone, blasting directly towards them. The scorching temperature seemed to burn the heaven and earth. Ice block, pheasant mouth. Seeing the heat in the sky, Aikiji was worried that Xia Yu would be accidentally injured after the explosion, so he reacted immediately. A powerful chill came over, and the last burst of chill transformed into a giant ice bird, which blasted towards the heat in the sky. Two completely different forces collided directly in the sky between Kaido and Xia Yu, sizzling accompanied by a strange sound. The two forces completely dissipated. The two forces directly cancel each other out. As a result, a large amount of water mist appeared around the entire science department. Garp and Kasaski stepped on the ground and used their powerful physical skills to rush towards the sky. Garp, who possesses the strongest physical skills, is naturally faster than Akenu in the blink of an eye. Garp was the first to fly to Kaido's side. Kaido, since you, brat, are looking for trouble, then fine, I'll grant your wish. Garp roared. Seeing that it was Garp who approached first, Kaido was obviously stunned, revealing a look of fear. Garp's fist can cause even greater damage than the fruit abilities of the three admirals. Chapter 50. Defeat Kaido. Although I am confident that Garp's punch can't kill me, however, I am not a masochist. I absolutely cannot resist Garp's attack by relying solely on my dragon scales. Page 43. Kaido panicked and quickly activated his armament haki to resist. A layer of pitch-black armed color spread directly over Kaido's dragon head. Seeing the scene, Garp's fist did not weaken at all. Armament haki is also divided into levels. The powerful armed iron fist, without any hesitation, smashed heavily into Kaido's dragon head in the air, boom accompanied by a loud muffled sound. Garp's fist hit Kaido's dragon head hard. Even with the protection of the armed armor, Kaido still felt a huge force, and his head exploded in an instant. In an instant, Kaido's face became extremely distorted, hateful. Is this Garp's fist? I have to say, it really hurts. Kaido, a feeling of emotion in his heart. The next moment, Kaido's dragon head, like a vertically falling lead ball, was in the sky, continuously slamming heavily towards the ground. Along with his entire body, he began to fall rapidly. At this time, Akenu had already come over. Seeing Garp's masterpiece, Akenu couldn't help but exclaim, there are rumors in the Navy that if Garp really attacks, he can kill himself. Before, I was still unwilling to accept it, but now I can't help but accept it. At the very least, it is impossible for me to force Kaido into this state with just a single encounter. Without much thought, while Kaido's entire dragon body was falling straight down, Sakazuki was naturally not idle either. The whole person's arm suddenly turned into magma. Afterwards, the huge magma turned into the shape of a dog's head. Go! Dog eat Red Lotus! Akenu clenched his fists tightly and roared loudly. The next moment, a giant dog transformed from magma slammed heavily into Kaido's body. After the giant dog came into contact with Kaido's body, it began to bite the dragon scales on Kaido's body, sizzling. At the same time, the hot magma was also burning Kaido's body, and a large amount of blood was directly evaporated into blood mist. The dragon scales on Kaido's body were burned and fell off under these horrific injuries. Despite causing such great harm to Kaido, Akenu looked embarrassed. Oh no, in this case, all the blood will be evaporated by my magma and cannot be collected at all, Akenu said embarrassedly, touching his head. And, at this moment, the yellow flash number suddenly took action. While Kaido was suffering a lot of damage, the entire body of the machine turned into spots of light. In an instant, he was standing on Kaido's body. There was actually a sword of light in his hand. Seeing the scene, Kizaru, who was sitting below, felt a surge of emotion. You are truly worthy of being me, brother Xia Yu. This robot can imitate, even release the sword of Amano Kyoraku, Kizaru said with a gleam in his eyes. That's natural, brother. Yellow Flash, the development level of his flash fruit is the same as his brother's, Xia Yu said playfully. Above the sky, the yellow flash stood on Kaido's falling dragon body, holding the no Mirakumo sword high in his hand. Then the huge sword of light attacked again at the place where Akenu had caused damage before. Because the dragon scales in this part of Kaido's body had been burned by Akenu with lava before. Therefore, under the damage of the no Mirakumo sword, another scar was directly scratched on Kaido's wound. BFFT. A large amount of blood was instantly spilled at this moment. Yellow flash number, collect it quickly. A large amount of blood was directly collected in it. Seeing this scene, Akenu was secretly delighted. Ha ha ha. I didn't expect this robot to have such a high IQ. He actually knew to launch his attack from where Kaido was injured. In this case, the damage I caused earlier can't be said to be in vain. I didn't expect this. This robot is really smart, Akenu said with a smile on his face. Adding insult to injury, the pain from the distance made Kaido roar. Jack the Drought, who was tied up below, saw Kaido's appearance and fell into a state of madness. Lord Kaido, are you okay? However, no matter how he shook his huge body, it was useless. Two Seraphim were holding Jack tightly, not giving him any chance to resist. Guo, who was protecting Xia Yu, had a slight smile on his face. Kaido, you're just looking for a fight by coming here like this. You're still thinking of taking action against Dr. Xia Yu, our Navy's top scientist. I think you're really that bold. We will never let you succeed, Guo said with smug joy. Lieutenant General, he narrowed his eyes and smiled. Kizaru also showed a mocking smile. HMPH, you actually dared to think about assassinating my own brother? This is what happens to you, Kaido. If it weren't for the fact that I have to protect my brother, I really want to go up and give you a few wounds, Kizaru said angrily. Xia Yu also gave his orders to the yellow flash. Don't stop. The more blood you collect, the better, Xia Yu said with a smile. Even though Kaido was beaten into a dog head, he still had some pride in his heart. Humph, even if that's the case, what can we do? If you have the guts, kill me, Kaido roared loudly from above the sky. Then, Kaido's entire dragon body suddenly stopped while descending from the sky. Although, in a high posture, it began to spin non-stop tornado. Kaido roared loudly. The powerful rotating force actually stirred up the surrounding air. Feeling Kaido's enormous power, the yellow flash on Kaido's body also hurriedly jumped down from Kaido's huge dragon body. In this state, Kaido is unable to continue collecting blood as Kaido's huge dragon body continued to rotate. Tornadoes were formed one after another. It destroyed everything in all directions. Chapter 51, Protect Dr. Xia Yu. Anything caught in the tornado was immediately cut into pieces by the powerful wind blades the moment it entered the tornado. At this time, Garp, Akenu, and others who were standing next to Kaido were all shocked and frowned. Damn, Kaido, come at me if you dare, Akenu roared. Garp also clenched his fists tightly. Damn it, he's so weak. It's so difficult to deal with. A strong wind was blowing around the entire science department. The naval forces stationed there all showed expressions of horror. It's Kaido's bad wind. Be careful to dodge. If we get hurt by one of those sharp air blades, I'm afraid we'll be cut in half right there. Damn, Kaido, this time, you want to cause large-scale destruction in the Navy? Bastard. I don't know how many casualties this time will cause. Everyone, please take shelter, take shelter. One by one, the Navy soldiers screamed in fear. However, the large number of tornadoes did not cause much damage to the entire Naval Science and Technology Department. Page 44. It was as if someone was controlling them, carrying a terrifying aura, and they all rushed towards Xia Yu rapidly. Feeling the arrival of the tornado, a lot of sweat suddenly appeared on Guo's forehead. A white light reflected from Guo's glasses, and he looked extremely nervous. Naturally, as a naval marshal, Guo would not lose his composure like this when faced with a mere bad wind. What he was worried about was Xia Yu. Oh no, this damn Kaido has his target been Xia Yu from the very beginning? Follow my orders, gather all your strength and protect Dr. Xia Yu, Guo said nervously. If Xia Yu was killed by Kaido right beside him, or even injured, it would be hard for him to explain to the five elders. Maybe even a glorious retirement won't be possible. Therefore, no matter what, Xia Yu must not be in danger. After a burst of roars, Guo didn't seem to pay any attention. Suddenly, dazzling yellow light came out of Guo's body. Afterwards, Guo's entire body suddenly grew hundreds of times larger. This is exactly the form of the Great Buddha that was opened in the Warring States period. Warring States, in the form of a giant Buddha, raised his hands. A Buddhist shockwave first spurted out from his hands. Boom! A strong breath blasted towards the tornado in front. However, as an offensive move, this did not have much impact on Kaido's gale. After a brief pause, Kaido's tornado rushed over again. Kaido, who was in the sky, showed a ferocious smile. Ha ha ha. No matter how you defend yourself, you can't defend yourself against the wind. Ha ha ha. As long as there's even the slightest gap, a guy like Xia Yu, whose combat power is almost zero, will be killed by my bad wind. This is what happens when you offend our beasts pirates. Xia Yu, don't be scared and cry ha ha. Although he had various wounds, he was still worried when he thought about how Xia Yu would be chopped into pieces by his own sharp blade. Kaido felt that this trip to the marine headquarters was worth it. At this time, Zhang Guo's entire back was covered with sweat, and the corners of his mouth were twitching. Yes, doctor. Xia Yu, although he is very intelligent, is just an ordinary person after all. Kaido is a 4 Emperors level existence. Even a little bit of the aftermath of his attack is enough to kill Xia Yu. Unfortunately, this tornado's blast had a very wide area. Even if I tried to activate the flash fruit, I couldn't escape its attack range this time. It is a very difficult protection mission. Thinking of this, Zhang Guo directly stood in front of everyone, and a large amount of Buddha's light shone on Zhang Guo's huge body from time to time. At the same time, a layer of armed armor also spread over the whole body of Zhang Guo. Lieutenant General Tsuru, Kizaru, the rest is up to you, Sengoku said loudly. Now, the only thing he could do was to stand in front of Xia Yu and reduce the damage. However, Zhang Guo also knew that this effect seemed to be of little use after all. As Kaido said, the wind can't be stopped. After hearing what Zhang Guo said, Lieutenant General he narrowed his eyes tightly and a serious look appeared on his face. The Warring States period was not very good at defense. Among the people left to protect Xia Yu, I am the only one who is best at defense. However, it is almost impossible to completely resist Kaido's tornado blade. Now all I can do is try my best. Lieutenant General he, who was facing a powerful enemy, did not dare to hesitate for a moment. Before that, Lieutenant General he waved his hands in front of Xia Yu. Beside Xia Yu, a bubble-shaped barrier actually opened up. The huge bubble directly surrounded Xia Yu and the others, and under the sunlight, it also emitted a beautiful rainbow light. If it were an ordinary person's attack, I would definitely be able to resist it all. But this time it's a 4 Emperors level attack, and it's a bad wind that comes from everywhere. I'm afraid I can't resist them all. But Dr. Xia Yu, don't be afraid. I will protect you even if it costs my life. Lieutenant General he said seriously. Now, I can only cheer Xia Yu up. After all, no matter how smart Xia Yu is, he is just an 8-year-old child. Still need adults to comfort and console. Contrary to everyone's expectations, Xia Yu was not at all panicked after hearing what Lieutenant General he said. Don't worry, Lieutenant General Tsuru. Chapter 52 Kaido, my tornado was blocked by a mere robot. I'm not a crybaby, Xia Yu said cutely. At the same time, after feeling the ability of Vice Admiral he, Xia Yu also sighed. Speaking of which, in the anime, I have never seen Vice Admiral Tsuru truly use his abilities. But since he was able to beat a veteran Shichibukai like Doflamingo like a stray dog, presumably, the Wash fruit is also a very powerful devil fruit. This time, we can see the actual effect of the Zixi fruit. Xia Yufei was not afraid at all. Instead, he showed a look of curiosity. In just a moment, a large amount of bad wind hit the crane's foam. The powerful and violent wind from before, with the momentum to split the sky and earth apart, kept crashing on the foam under the powerful force. The bubbles in the sky shook. However, it was able to withstand Kaido's bad wind. This made Xia Yu's eyes light up. The foam that looks so fragile actually has such strong defensive power. The fruit, the washing fruit, is a good fruit ability. Kaido, who was in the sky, raised his eyebrows. It's no use, Crane. I wonder how long you can hold on? Kaido said from above the sky with a ferocious look on his face. The next moment, tornadoes struck again. Wherever a tornado passes, even the ground beneath it is instantly torn apart by the powerful wind. Buzz. In an instant, dozens of tornadoes gathered around the foam barrier. Under the rips of dozens of tornadoes, the foam barrier above was shaking violently, and it seemed that it was about to burst at any moment. Kizaru, Vice Admiral Seraph, and others all showed embarrassed expressions. I'm afraid my bubble barrier is no longer able to withstand it, Kizaru. Once my bubble bursts, do everything you can to use your flash fruit to help Xia Yu avoid all attacks, he said seriously. Yellow Monkey also showed a nervous expression. My brother, you've only been at the Marine headquarters for less than a month, and you're already so unlucky. Are you going to die? Avoid all attacks. That's the wind. The wind is everywhere. Kizaru had a look of despair on his face. But at this moment, Xia Yu smiled slightly and spoke in a grandmother's tone. Lieutenant General Tsuru, Brother Kizaru. Don't worry. Don't forget, I have 10 Seraphim by my side. Their combined defense is impeccable, Xia Yu said with a smile. After hearing Xia Yu's voice, Vice Admiral Tsuru and Kizaru both widened their eyes. What? Even the wind can be completely blocked? He said in disbelief. There are many ways to defend in this world, but if you want to block the wind without any gaps or penetration, you must have the barrier fruit, which is an absolute defense, to do it. Of course, my Seraph's combined defense, besides being able to defend against Admiral-level damage like Uncle Akenu, it's also an absolute defense. No matter how comprehensive the attack is, we can withstand it, Xia Yu said confidently. Page 45. After hearing Xia Yu's words, Lieutenant General He's previous expression finally relaxed. Jan Guo's face was filled with joy. Really? Doctor? Xia Yu? Just now, I was almost scared to death. You're so good, Xia Yu. You didn't tell me earlier, but I, your brother, was worried to death. If you die here, how will I explain to my parents? Kizaru said even more reproachfully. Drought Jack, who was standing by, naturally heard all the words and showed an expression of disbelief. I think you are just bragging. That's Kaido's tornado, and you, a mere Shichibukai robot, think you can completely stop it? Drought Jack looked unconvinced and said suspiciously. Ace, however, had a determined look in his eyes. Absolute defense? So, when he was fighting against Blackbeard, he was able to remain unharmed even when he was hit by Blackbeard's hidden acupuncture points because of this absolute defense. In the end, the colorful foam barrier above Xia Yu's head was still unable to support. Bang bang exclamation along with the sound of bubbles bursting. A large number of tornadoes and severe winds suddenly rushed in. At this moment, 10 Seraphim suddenly appeared, raised their hands, and stood on each other's shoulders, forming the shape of an Arhat. Lieutenant General He and others also stood around Xia Yu, surrounding Xia Yu in the middle. Hoo-ho-ho, the fierce and bad wind, with its devastating force, hit Xia Yu in front of him. However, when these terrifying bad winds were less than 1 meter away from Xia Yu, they suddenly became unable to get any closer. Kaido in the sky, although he was hit by Garp's punch again and blood was seeping from the corner of his mouth, he still showed a ferocious and complacent smile. Ha-ha! Xia Yu, die for me, Kaido said excitedly. No matter how much damage he suffered, he would be able to recover thanks to his strong recovery ability. But Xia Yu, this ordinary little ghost, with a mere mortal body, was definitely killed if he was even slightly affected by his bad wind. So, Kaido is still very excited. However, time passed by second. Garp's continuous ordinary punches hit Kaido's body, making Kaido howl continuously. However, even after such a long time, Xia Yu on the ground was still fine even after waiting until the wind stopped. Xia Yu, not even her hair was blown up. Kaido, who was in the sky, almost had his eyes popping out. What is going on? Whose devil fruit ability is this that protects Xia Yu? But that shouldn't be the case. Whether it's Vice Admiral Tsuru, Sengoku, or Kizaru, their defenses are not absolute. Kaido was completely confused. Seeing that Xia Yu's body was really not hurt at all, Jack the Drought, who was watching on the side, twitched the corner of his mouth. Killing Xia Yu is even harder than killing a Navy Admiral. What the hell? Is this really okay? Are these 10 Seraphim all devils? Just now, they gathered together and released some terrifying moves that actually blocked all of Kaido-sama's Wind Blades. Chapter 53, Warring States, beat Kaido up. The Warring States on the ground, however, had a hint of a smile on his face. As expected, it's the Seraph studied by Dr. Xia Yu. I have to say, it is invincible when used to protect ordinary people who have no fighting ability. Garp, Akenu, Akiji, this damn Kaido actually attacked Dr. Xia Yu. It's simply unforgivable. You guys beat him up hard, and Guo roared. This damn Kaido just scared me, and now it's time for revenge. Okay, Garp said excitedly. A domineering aura suddenly appeared. Layer upon layer of domineering color continued to gather on Garp's fist. Garp is ready to give Kaido the final blow. Almost every time Kaido makes trouble in the Marine headquarters, Garp relies on his domineering color to subdue Kaido. Next moment Akiji also smiled slightly. A cold chill instantly hit Kaido's body. The dragon's body, which had been twisting vigorously before, was completely frozen into a popsicle. Saw Kaido and couldn't move. The yellow flash, with its quick eyes and hands, jumped directly onto Kaido's dragon body again. Boom, one after another, light bullets were released directly onto Kaido's wound. Then, he picked up the Sword of Aim no Mirakumo created with his own light element, stood on Kaido's huge dragon body, and collected blood. Feeling the pain in his body, Kaido roared. Roar! Stop looking down on me. Accompanied by a dragon roar that resounded through the heavens and earth, the ice layer on Kaido's body was shattered. Kaido, who was furious, wanted to use his huge tail to pull out the yellow flash that was collecting blood from his body. But, the next moment Akanu's attacks also followed. The hot magma was located on Akanu's arm, gathering from time to time. At this moment, the air around seemed to be burning. Dare to attack our doctor. Xia Yu, you despicable guy, I will make you pay the price, Kaido. Akenu roared loudly. Immediately afterwards, Kaido's arm turned into a terrifying magma dog head, and with a move of Hades' dog, the swinging tail directly hit Kaido. Sizzling, the violent magma on top of Kaido's dragon tail kept corroding. At this moment, Kaido's flesh and blood were actually evaporated into gas by the magma. A large area of burn suddenly appeared on Kaido's tail. The pain of being burned by magma comes instantly. Kaido was burning and grimacing. Pain, it hurts so much, Kaido roared for a while. Not only did he fail to achieve his goal of killing the damn Xia Yu, but he also suffered so many attacks in vain. At this moment, Kaido was extremely angry, enduring the pain from all kinds of injuries on my body. Kaido wants to release his hot breath again. A large amount of flames gathered in Kaido's dragon mouth. Bastards, I'll burn you to death. Kaido roared like a dragon. But at this time, Garp had already wrapped his domineering color around his iron fist, and his strength was gathered. Ta-da-tau, he launched his own Navy 6 style shave. The speed is extremely fast. Garp's figure kept changing its position in the sky, leaving behind a trail of after images. In just a moment, he arrived in front of Kaido. One punch. He smashed Kaido's dragon head hard. The iron fist with domineering color wrapped around it is extremely powerful. Iron fist. Wherever he goes, the entire space seemed to be torn apart. Page 46. You despicable fellow, you actually attacked Dr. Xia Yu, who has no fighting ability at all. I'll make you pay the price now, old man. Garp said angrily, veins popping out on his arms. The iron fist, as big as a casserole, slammed heavily on Kaido's dragon head. Boom, accompanied by a huge muffled sound that resounded through heaven and earth. A powerful force instantly exploded in Kaido's head. Kaido, who was about to release a huge breath of heat, suddenly had his mouth forcibly shut. The entire huge dragon head felt as if it had hit some terrifying giant mountain, and there was a dull thud in the head. Kaido only felt that all kinds of little stars appeared in front of his eyes at the same time. The hot breath gathered in Kaido's mouth did not emit. Instead, it exploded violently in Kaido's mouth. Rumble! Exclamation! Another muffled sound. Several terrifying attacks hit Kaido's head. Suffering horrific injuries one after another, Kaido suddenly felt dizzy. Then, he lost consciousness for a short time. The entire huge dragon head suddenly fell down. Garp's fist struck again, hitting Kaido's head hard. Boom! Exclamation under the powerful force. Kaido's head and the entire dragon body fell heavily downwards. At this moment, the yellow flash on Kaido's body pulled Kaido unconscious and accelerated its collection pace. In a very short time, a full bottle of blood was extracted from Kaido's body. Collection completed. Chapter 54. Kaido is hammered unconscious afterwards. The yellow flash also left Kaido's body. The huge dragon body was now falling vertically like a kite with a broken string. Finally, the terrifying body crashed heavily onto the ground of the science department below. Rumble! Exclamation with a resounding roar. A large amount of dust was stirred up, and smoke filled the air. After the dust from the ruins dissipated briefly, Kaido's entire body was already deeply embedded in the earth. The ground cracked and even the entire land shook under the bombardment of this behemoth. At this moment, Kaido was in the center of the earth, in a human-shaped pit hundreds of meters deep, and had already transformed into a human form. There was no more response. I saw such a brutal scene. Xia Yu couldn't help but twitch the corners of his mouth as expected of Garp's iron fist. This fighting power can definitely be called the strongest fighting force in the Marine headquarters. Even a guy with a terrifying defense like Kaido can be knocked unconscious by Garp's iron fist. This combat power can be described in one word: terrifying. Sakazuki also clapped his hands, looking pleased. HMPH, Kaido, this is the price you pay for daring to come to our Marine headquarters and assassinate Dr. Xia Yu. This time, I will never let you, a bastard, escape again, Akenu said coldly. Aokiji also looked excited. As expected of Garp-senpai, he can even knock Kaido unconscious. Seeing Kaido being knocked from the sky to the ground and completely unconscious, Zhang Guo was also delighted. This time, not only did they complete the mission of protecting Dr. Xia Yu, but they also captured Kaido. This is really good news. Ha ha ha. Today is really a day worth celebrating for the Navy, Zhang Guo said excitedly. Vice Admiral Seraph, Kizaru and others who were standing beside Xia Yu also had a look of secret joy on their faces. The Navy today, using the Seraphs, has not only abolished the Seven Warlords of the sea, but even more excitingly, they have successfully captured even a player of the level of the Four Emperors Kaido. This was undoubtedly a great thing for them. All the Navy members gathered together, looking very happy. Some were happy, some were sad. Jack, the drought, who was standing by, couldn't help but tremble when he saw Kaido being beaten unconscious by a group of Navy people in order to save himself. Master Kaido, Lord Kaido, please wake up. You are known as the strongest creature in the world, and you have the strongest defense in the world. How come you were beaten like this? Drought Jack roared with grief and anger. This time, Kaido is going to be captured by the Navy again and severely tortured for his own sake. Thinking of this, Drought Jack gritted his teeth in anger. Damn Navy, just wait, I will never let you off, Jack said almost crazily. After hearing what Drought Jack said, the senior naval officers standing by showed contempt. Then let's wait until you escape from the underwater prison first. Jack, imprison Kaido and Jack immediately in the underwater prison. Sengoku gave his order directly. Hateful Lord Kaido, this time, it was me, Jack, who implicated you. Jack actually started crying. Come on, Jack, let's go to the underwater prison with your boss. Come to think of it, Kaido is a frequent visitor, but you've never been to the undersea prison. I hope you enjoy your time there, the mole said jokingly. And at this moment, Kaido, who had been knocked unconscious before, suddenly regained consciousness after a slight concussion. A feeling of dominance suddenly came over me. Okay. Sengoku, Garp, Akenu and others all changed their expressions. Oh no. Kaido has woken up again, Zhang Guo exclaimed. At this time, Kaido was very close to Xia Yu. Garp, Akenu and other high-ranking Navy officials relaxed their vigilance and were not around Xia Yu to protect him. Xia Yu is in great danger now. Kaido, holding a mace in his hand, suddenly jumped up with his hands clenched tightly. The lightning in the sky added a bit of power to Kaido's attack. Ha ha ha. See you, I told you, I will kill you myself. Kaido opened his big mouth and revealed a ferocious smile. In the case that no one is paying attention, and he is not as close to Xia Yu as Kaido, so Kaido's attack is likely to succeed this time. At this moment, it's too late to stop it. Everyone frowned tightly, and the atmosphere at the scene was extremely solemn. Jian Guo was completely in despair. This is a scientist that the Navy has not seen in thousands of years. Is this the sacrifice? When Kizaru saw this situation, he was so anxious that he was sweating profusely. This is my own brother, sacrificing your life for the Navy? No matter how much compensation I receive, I don't want to take it. Just when Kizaru wanted to use his flash fruit and try his best to take Xia Yu away, the Seraphim closest to Xia Yu stood up one after another. Kaido looked confused. These children are the Seraphim that Doflamingo mentioned, right? But if you stand together, can you resist my roaring thunder, gossip? This, with the blessing of the Conqueror's Haki, is an even more terrifying attack than the previous bad wind. You are just little robots. No matter how strong you are, you can't protect Xia Yu. Xia Yu, after all, is just an ordinary human body. Defense power is almost zero. Even the slightest bit of power that overflowed from his own attack was enough to kill Xia Yu. Ha ha ha. It's no use. Xia Yu, he is just an ordinary mortal. None of you can protect him. Kaido's face was ferocious. He still believed that the fact that Xia Yu was protected before must be thanks to Jian Guo and others. Chapter 55. Therefore, he still looked confident about his attack. Humph, they are just a few robots. Do you think it is impossible to protect your master? Go to hell. Chapter 55. Kaido escapes and heads to the underwater prison. A powerful blow hit Xia Yu's head heavily. In order to unleash this attack, Kaido's facial expression was distorted to the extreme, and the veins on his forehead were completely bulging. Rumble! Purple lightning bolts struck Kaido's mace from time to time. The terrifying power was approaching. Even Sengoku, who was standing nearby, could feel the terrifying aftermath. Boom! A huge noise was heard, and when Kaido was 1 meter away from Xia Yu, his attack suddenly stopped. I just felt that my attack seemed to have hit a huge mountain of sea stone. The violent reaction force shook Kaido's arm, causing it to go numb. Kaido continued to push, and the veins on his arms bulged violently. But he couldn't move forward even a millimeter. Only 1 meter away, but he could only watch Xia Yu standing right in front of him. Nothing happened. Kaido was completely stunned, his eyes widened and his face was full of disbelief. My attack, why can't it move forward? Kaido looked confused, with the corners of his mouth twitching. But the next moment, Kaido, a peerless strong man, understood in just a moment that what was in front of him was an absolute defense shield with no blind spots in all directions. Kaido's eyes suddenly widened, as if he suddenly realized something. Before I was always confused as to why the all-pervasive tornado I released couldn't even get close to you. Now I finally understand. It must be these little robots that are causing this. Kaido squinted his eyes and exclaimed. Although it is not a barrier fruit, the defensive power it stimulates is even more terrifying than the barrier fruit. These damn robots actually have such a powerful function? It seems that what Doflamingo said about these robots being able to replace the entire 7 Warlords of the sea is not an exaggeration. Just when Kaido was feeling depressed, a huge Buddha's palm suddenly appeared above his head. This is the Buddha's shock wave of the warring states. Kaido's lips trembled. The next moment, a fierce yellow light suddenly exploded on Kaido's chest. Kaido was affected by the powerful force and his entire body flew backwards. Finally, after smashing down one building after another, it finally fell heavily to the ground. I just felt my internal organs churning. Puff puff, a large amount of blood spurted out of Kaido's mouth at this moment. I felt that the injuries on my body were already in dozens of places. Kaido's expression was extremely ferocious. With the protection of that damn Seraph, it is almost impossible for me to attack Xia Yu. In this case, there is no need to stay any longer. If I don't leave now, I'm afraid I'll be thrown into that dark place again, okay? Yashikani no Magatama meteor volcano frozen moment. Just as Kaido was thinking, the three admirals suddenly took action. Above the sky, beams of light and magma illuminated the entire world. On the ground, a fierce chill instantly hit, feeling the terrifying aura around him. Kaido endured the pain in his body and let out a dragon roar. The next moment, the whole body turned into a huge green dragon again. Navy and Xia Yu, just wait for me. I will be back. Then, Kaido took off into the air, and with the help of the power of the flame cloud, he soared into the sky. High in the sky, although he was hit by many light bullets and attacks from magma meteorites, Kaido still gritted his teeth and flew away from here. It seemed that Kizaru wanted to continue and use his devil fruit ability to chase, but he was pulled back by Sengoku, who was standing beside him. Forget it, now that we have collected Kaido's blood, our goal has been achieved. Don't chase the poor bandits. The most important thing for us now is to protect Dr. Xia Yu's safety, and to put Ace and the others in the underwater prison. Jan Guo murmured. After hearing what Sengoku said, Kizaru calmed down. Yes, the most urgent thing is to protect my brother Xia Yu. Kaido, this cunning guy. What if he uses a trick to lure the tiger away from the mountain? His brother Xia Yu. Although he has the protection of the Seraph, there is still a certain risk. Yes, brother, let Kaido go. We have obtained his bloodline factor, Xia Yu said with a slight smile on his face. Now that he already has Kaido's bloodline factor, the next step is to go to the prison and obtain the bloodline factors of Barrett and the others. In this way, the materials needed to create a king-level Seraphim by yourself are almost complete. Let's go, Vice Admiral Mole. It's just right. I also want to obtain some bloodline factors in the big prison, Xia Yu said with a smile. After hearing Xia Yu's words, Ace and Jack, who were being escorted, both looked grim. This Xia Yu is too terrifying. He is not satisfied with just being a Seraphim at the Admiral level. With so many bloodline factors, could it be that he wants to create a killing machine of One Piece level? Just like that, to the shock of Ace and the others, Xia Yu and the mole continued their progress. Leading the yellow flash, everyone headed directly towards the underwater prison. And Jan Guo also looked excited. Now that I have so much good news, I naturally have to go to the 5 elders and report everything. In this way, maybe we can get more funds for the Navy. Chapter 56, Prison Criminals. Collective ridicule impelled down. The undersea prison is the largest prison in the world. Located in the doldrums and in the middle of the ocean, it's difficult for criminals here to escape. Therefore, the underwater prison has the reputation of being an iron wall at this time. Inside the 6th floor of the underwater prison, there was a sound of footsteps. The 6th level is also known as the Infinite Hell. The entire surrounding environment is extremely silent and gloomy. Those imprisoned here are all vicious criminals who have caused great harm to the world. Even those who have been erased from history due to their excessive cruelty are among them. Located on the 6th floor of the underwater prison, a group of world-class criminals suddenly opened their eyes. It seems like someone is coming. Almost all the criminals, Crocodile, Jind, Beryl, King of Evil, and even Barrett, the descendant of the devil, turned their eyes to the prison gate on the 6th floor. Could it be that a new friend is coming in? Ha ha ha. Now, I can at least relieve my boredom for a few days, Barrett said jokingly with a slight smile on his face. Tatatau. The door to the 6th floor was finally opened. What came into their sight were Xia Yu, Vice Admiral Mole, the Yellow Flash, and the escorted Ace and Drought Jack. With the arrival of the crowd, there was a commotion in the entire prison. Why are the people being escorted actually Ace the Fire Fist and Jack the Drought? Crocodile suddenly widened his eyes. These were all renowned pirates from the New World, and they belonged to the Whitebeard Pirates and the Beasts Pirates, respectively. The Navy actually arrested 2 people at once. Isn't this fear? 2 of the 4 Emperors' groups have retaliated, and the Navy is going to take action against the 4 Emperors. Jinbei suddenly stood up in the cell and clenched his fists tightly. Hateful. Brother Ace, did they attack you too? Jinbei said, gritting his teeth. Page 48. Ace then noticed that Jin was also imprisoned in the underwater prison. Jinbei, you are here too? Damn Navy, what are you trying to do? Ace said angrily. However, he was pushed by Lieutenant General Mole and continued to walk deeper into the cell. This is Drought Jack. Ha ha ha. He was also captured. Seeing this kid reminds me of his boss Kaido. He's a habitual criminal here. He's still alive. He's really lucky. Barrett, the descendant of the devil, said with a smile. Facing the devil's descendant Barrett, contrary to everyone's expectations, Jack the Drought, who was always known for his stubbornness, did not say a word. Kaido had told himself that there were very few people on this ocean. Even the beasts pirates, they should not be provoked without reason. Devil Barrett is one of them. The Red Earl, who was in the deepest part, kept his eyes narrowed tightly and did not speak a word. He was always aloof and arrogant, and he almost never spoke in the big prison. Afterwards, pushed by Vice Admiral Mole, Ace and Jack the Drought entered their respective cages. The discussion in the prison is still going on. Compared to these questions, I'm more curious about who that little brat is. He's actually walking ahead of Vice Admiral Mole and Magellan. Is his status more honorable than that of a general? The evil king asked with a puzzled look on his face. At this time, Barrett and others noticed Xia Yu, who was in front of Magellan. Everyone showed an expression of extreme surprise at that moment. Yeah, who is that little brat? And that guy with wings seems to look a bit similar to Kizaru. I wonder if you have noticed. Barrett, the descendant of the devil, narrowed his eyes and said in confusion. Crocodile, the Red Earl, and others all looked over. Only then did I realize that it was exactly as everyone said. Hey, the guy with wings, who are you? Looking at the flames on your body, are you from the Lunalia family? Crocodile asked with narrowed eyes. However, there was no reply. Feeling that he was being ignored, Crocodile snorted coldly. Damn Navy. If it weren't for these damn seastone handcuffs, I would have taught that flaming guy who looks like Kizaru a lesson. Crocodile complained. Just when everyone thought that after escorting Ace and Jack the Drought in, the Mole and others were about to leave, unexpectedly Lieutenant General Mole suddenly spoke. This time, we have another important matter, which is to collect blood from you criminals. I hope you will cooperate. Magellan also covered his stomach and spoke with a distressed look on his face. It was obvious that the poison fruit had taken effect again. Correct. You heinous fellows, I hope you can reform yourself and cooperate with the Navy, Magellan said hurriedly. After hearing this, the criminals didn't show any signs of repentance. Instead, they all burst into laughter. Habilitation? The criminals on the 6th floor are all extremely evil. Expecting us to reform is a joke, I say. Magellan, are you confused? If we could reform ourselves, would we still be staying on this damn 6th floor? The king of evil politics said with a grin. The big barrel also had a big smile on his face. To be honest, I haven't been this happy in a long time since you took away my drinking privileges. Hahaha. Let's reform ourselves as criminals on the 6th floor. Interesting, hahaha. Barrett, there is nothing good to say. HMPH. You want me to collect your blood? Okay, as long as one of you can defeat me, I will cooperate obediently. It wasn't you who arrested me. You were just relying on the Seastone bracelet on me to bully others. Barrett grinned with contempt. Chapter 57, Red Earl. Technology has advanced so rapidly while I was away. Don't forget, although Seastone can limit my devil fruit ability, it can't limit my haki at all. Although, under the influence of the Seastone, my physical strength has rapidly declined. But as a king, I can still release the invisible domineering color. If you want to take blood by force, then come and try it if you have the ability, Barrett said grimly with a smug look on his face. Then Barrett, without further words, a terrifying domineering aura instantly emanated from Barrett's body. The terrifying domineering aura surged, with Barrett himself as the center, and continued to spread out in all directions. Under the powerful pressure of the domineering Haki, Lieutenant General Mole's face changed drastically, and big beads of sweat were dripping from his forehead from time to time. Even Magellan couldn't help but feel his heart beating faster. There is no way. The person in front of me is too terrifying. What Barrett said was actually correct. It wasn't them who captured him and put him in the underwater prison. They naturally don't have the ability to personally escort Barrett, the descendant of the devil, to prison. Barrett, at the age of 15, was able to fight Rayleigh, the descendant of the devil, on equal terms. Now, after so many years, Barrett, who simply pursued power, has gained a terrifying increase in his combat effectiveness. Therefore, according to conservative estimates, Barrett now has combat power at the level of the 4 emperors. This level of existence, even the Warden Magellan himself, is invincible. As the warden of the underwater prison, Magellan has his own helplessness. There are many strong people in the 6th floor who can defeat me. Since I don't know how to use Conqueror's Haki, I can only let Barrett do whatever he wants. And just when Magellan felt that as a prison warden he was unable to manage the criminals and felt very embarrassed, the yellow flash, which was next to Xia Yu, sensed that the Conqueror's Haki was forcing Xia Yu. The next moment, the instinctive protection mechanism was triggered, and a domineering aura of the same magnitude was suddenly released. Above the sky, 2 domineering auras kept colliding one after another. For a moment, it was difficult to tell the winner. The collision of the 2 terrifying domineering auras caused a gust of wind to blow around the entire prison on the 6th floor of the underwater prison. Even the shackles of the criminals in the prison made a clanging sound due to the strong wind. The criminals in the big prison saw this guy who looked like Kizaru and had the same domineering color as Barrett, and they all showed expressions of surprise. What? In the Navy, besides Sengoku and Garp, those 2 legendary guys, there is actually a new member who has mastered the Conqueror's Haki. Even the usually taciturn Red Earl showed a look of surprise. Unexpectedly, a newcomer who wanted to become the king appeared again in the Navy. It's just a pity that I've been imprisoned here for too long. I don't even know about these rising stars. And he's actually on par with the devil's descendant, Barrett. Who is this guy? He hasn't said a word since he came in. Crocodile opened his mouth wide and showed a look of horror. Barrett, he was familiar with this terrifying guy, who had the combat power of the 4 emperors. His domineering aura is extremely powerful. I didn't expect that in the Navy, besides Garp and Sengoku, there is someone else whose domineering color is so powerful. What made him even more confused was that he didn't even recognize the guy in front of him. He had clearly been imprisoned here for only a few days. Magellan, the prison warden, was even more shocked. I've heard for a long time that the robots created by Dr. Xia Yu are extremely powerful, but I just found out that Xia Yu's robot can actually release the domineering color. This surprised Magellan very much. After all, the domineering aura can only be awakened by those who are born to be kings. Even he, the warden of the underwater prison, cannot obtain this domineering power, and a robot without human emotions actually gained the Conqueror's Haki. This is too exaggerated. Could it be that a mere robot also wants to become the king? This is simply unbelievable. It's totally a fantasy. Magellan, with a look of shock on his face, swallowed his saliva and looked at Xia Yu with narrowed eyes. Sure enough, the rumors were true. With Dr. Xia Yu, such a powerful existence, the Navy would be able to wipe out all the pirates in the world in no time. Above the sky, the 2 equally powerful domineering auras finally stopped. The 2 domineering forces are almost the same. Who are you? Feeling that his domineering aura was blocked by a newcomer, Barrett asked in surprise. Page 49. However, the yellow flash did not speak. Instead, it was Xia Yu who spoke first. His name is Yellow Flash, Xia Yu said lightly. After hearing the name of the Yellow Flash, Barrett was puzzled. It was a very strange name. The next sentence shocked Barrett completely. It's the latest robot I developed, Xia Yu introduced in a baby voice. What robot? Xia Yu's words had just fallen, and almost all the criminals present looked in Xia Yu's direction. Even the Red Earl, who usually showed no emotion, narrowed his eyes slightly and showed a look of surprise. During the time I was away, the ocean's technology has developed so rapidly they even developed a robot with domineering haki. Crocodile suddenly widened his eyes. Unlike the Red Earl, his imprisonment didn't last long, but I have never heard of such a robot. It feels like a lot of major events have happened outside during the days I was detained. Crocodile was confused. Chapter 58. Bet if I win, I'll let you all out. Barrett, the descendant of the devil, showed a shocked expression. Just now, I really felt it. The so-called domineering aura of this yellow flash. I can clearly feel that this is clearly the domineering color released by humans. How come you're telling me now this is a robot? The robot can release such a realistic domineering haki that even I couldn't detect it. What kind of strange domineering haki is it? Correct. Wasn't that kid Drought Jack just imprisoned? Hey, this little brat. Is what he said true? Drought Jack, Barrett said loudly. Jack was arrested and sent to this dark prison. He was in a bad mood and didn't want to answer. However, after seeing that the person asking was Barrett, Drought Jack answered honestly, that's right. This thing is indeed a robot. I was also captured by a robot similar to this one, Drought Jack said while gritting his teeth. The criminals around were also shocked when they heard it. I really didn't expect that it was actually a robot. And it was a robot with Conqueror's haki. Now, all the criminals looked at the yellow flash with curiosity. This robot actually knows how to use the domineering color. On the sea, today's technological development is so rapid. Moreover, it has the characteristics of Lunalia and Kizaru, but I don't know how strong its combat capability is. Is it possible to reach the level of Shichibukai? Looking at the curious expressions of the crowd, Xia Yu couldn't help but smile. I imagine you're all very curious about my research into this robot's combat capabilities, right? Okay. After hearing Xia Yu's words, everyone was shocked. It was actually researched by a little kid. Isn't this too fantastical? This kid looks like just an 8-year-old kid. How is it possible to research something so perverted? Or the guy in front of me, his real identity is Vegapunk. What kind of appearance fruit did you eat to become the same as you were as a child? Or maybe, this is just a little devil who is bragging to them. Everyone looked at Xia Yu with surprise and suspicion, and couldn't help but speculate. Everyone is still very skeptical about the fact that Xia Yu, at the age of 8, can develop such a miraculous robot. 8 years old. I'm afraid its brain hasn't fully developed yet. Tell us, did you research such a terrifying robot? I'm afraid he thinks we are fools. He ignored the confused and shocked looks of the crowd. I've been in this world for so long, I've already gotten used to other people's shocked looks. Xia Yu continued speaking. How about this? Let's make a bet. Barrett, you fight with my robot. If you can defeat my robot within 10 minutes, I can let all of you out. Xia Yu said in a baby voice. Those childish words echoed throughout the 6th floor of the underwater prison. As a criminal, what do you desire most? Without a doubt, it is freedom. These words were like a bombshell, exploding heavily in everyone's hearts. Release everyone, release everyone? Even the Grand Admiral of the Navy, Jan Guo, would not dare to say such words. No one would have thought that a mere 8-year-old kid could say such words. It's a lie, however. Xia Yu's words were too tempting to these criminals. Moreover, this time, they will hardly fail in this bet. Barrett's combat power in the 6th level is definitely ranked among the best. Apart from that, the legendary Red Earl and the Frozen World Destroyer, who else can suppress Barrett? And the other party, it's just a mere robot. So what if you can use the domineering color? Real combat is a reflection of comprehensive strength. In addition to the Conqueror's haki, there are also the more important armament haki, observation haki, taijutsu, and devil fruit abilities. And these projects Barrett is almost at his full capacity. The only important question now is whether the statement is true or not. After all, coming from an 8-year-old child, the words of releasing all the criminals on the 6th floor of the underwater prison still sounded quite far-fetched. Barrett suppressed his inner desire, swallowed his saliva, and couldn't help but speak out what everyone was thinking. Who are you? Do you keep your word? Barrett narrowed his eyes and said seriously, Yes. If you were just an ordinary kid, even if we won, the Navy wouldn't let us go. Aren't we asking for trouble? The other criminals also started shouting one by one. Yeah. Kid, you look like a brat no matter how you look at it. If you dare to make fun of us, we won't let you go. Does what you said count? If it does, Barrett, I will fight you immediately. The criminals shouted arrogantly one by one. Ace and Drought Jack both widened their eyes suddenly. How is this going? I just came into the underwater prison, and it's possible that I'm about to be released. They had seen the Battle of the Yellow Flash. However, the only bright spot of the Yellow Flash in the battle with Kaido was that it used its speed to quickly collect Kaido's blood while Garp, Akenu and others were bombarding it. Page 50. The speed is quite scary, however. As for their combat capabilities and other aspects, to be honest, they are not absolutely that terrifying. If it's a one-on-one fight, Kaido will definitely be able to defeat this robot that only knows how to sneak attack and steal blood. No matter how you look at it, he is at most at the same combat level as Kizaru. Barrett, who is a descendant of the devil, fought a draw with Pluto when he was only 15 years old. In the years to come, he will be searching for players at the lowest level of the Imperial class to fight his own battles. I don't know how terrifying the combat effectiveness has been improved to. Barrett, the descendant of the devil, is an existence that even Lord Kaido fears. Facing a robot with the greatest combat power than Kizaru, Jack believes that Barrett still has a great chance of winning. Before Xia Yu could answer, the Navy men beside him were all shocked. Magellan stared wide-eyed, not believing Xia Yu's words. Even in this shock, his stomach didn't hurt anymore. Doctor. Xia Yu, don't be ridiculous. These 6-tier criminals are all extremely vicious and powerful. If we let them out, I'm afraid it will cause a huge uproar throughout the world. When that happens, it will be a disaster for the entire world. Chapter 59, R&D Funds, Billion Baileys. Even if Garp and Sengoku were dispatched, they might not be able to stop these horrible criminals. Magellan was so anxious that he was sweating profusely. He thought to himself that he was really finished this time and said in horror. The mole beside him also widened his eyes. He really didn't expect that Dr. Xia Yu, who looked so cute, could be so reckless when doing things. How come I didn't notice it before? Yes, Dr. Xia Yu, this is absolutely not possible. The strength of these guys is so terrifying. If we really let them all out, catching them back would be harder than climbing to the sky. Lieutenant General Mole said in disbelief with a serious expression and trembling lips. The legendary pirate, the war maniac who dreams of subverting the entire world, the bloodline of the pirate king, the thief of the country. If any one of them were released, it would be a huge disaster for all mankind. Now Xia Yu actually wants to let them all out. This is too crazy. No, we have to enter the cells one by one. The mole, this robot and I will cooperate to collect their blood by force, Magellan said fearfully. After hearing Magellan's words, the criminals on the 6th floor all smiled mockingly once again. Ha ha. Magellan, you are the warden of the underwater prison. How dare you say such spineless words? Facing us, who have sea stone on our bodies, can't use the power of the devil fruit, and have greatly reduced physical strength, you are still such a coward. Ha ha ha, what a waste. Warden, the criminals in the underwater prison all smiled playfully. These lawless criminals will not rest even if they are arrested. This made Magellan, the prison warden, feel a little angry and embarrassed. Shut up, you bunch of bastards. Do you all want to taste the power of my poison gas? Magellan, irritated and angry, gritted his teeth and said angrily, If you have the guts, come into my cage and release the poison gas. Ha ha ha. Barrett mocked again. This made Magellan very helpless. As for entering the cage, he really didn't dare. The reason he was able to deal with so many criminals was because he could just release the poison gas outside the cage and leave. But now, Dr. Xia Yu has to go into the cage to collect blood, which really stumps him. At this time, Xia Yu continued to speak calmly. Warden Magellan, there are quite a few criminals on the 6th floor. It's too much trouble to defeat them one by one. I just wanted to fight them because I was afraid of trouble. How about this? How about you report the situation here to Marshal Zhang Guo and ask him to approve it? Xia Yu said calmly. After hearing Xia Yu's words, Magellan's eyes lit up. Since someone has taken over this hot potato, Magellan is naturally more than willing to do so. When the time comes, let Marshal Zhang Guo argue with you. I can't afford to offend you. After all, I'm planning to apply to the Navy in a few days to see if I can get a few Seraphs to help me maintain the operation of the underwater prison. Dr. Xia Yu, I can't afford to offend you then. Magellan picked up the Den Mashi in his hand and dialed the number to the Navy Admiral. What? Let Dr. Xia Yu answer the phone. Okay. Magellan was very excited. Haha, this has nothing to do with me. You asked me to make this call. If Marshal Zhang Guo wants to stop you or even criticize you later, don't blame me. Magellan was in a very good mood. The expressions of the other criminals formed a sharp contrast with Magellan's expression. The local originally, I thought I could go out this time. I didn't expect that the old dog Zhang Guo would answer the phone. Now, we are in trouble. That old dog from the Warring States period is even more troublesome than Magellan. This time, I definitely won't be able to get out. Crocodile, Jack the Drought, Barrett, and others were all depressed. At this time, the Warring States of the Warring States period had a very happy look on his face. Hey, Dr. Xia Yu, I've secured a full 300 billion Baileys in funding for you this time. 100 billion more than the estimated 200 billion. Moreover, the 5 elders said that you just need to do your utmost to create 10 Admiral-level Seraphim. Zhang Guo said excitedly. When Xia Yu heard this, the corners of his mouth curled up. As expected of a celestial dragon, he is rich. I had already quoted a very high price. Unexpectedly, the price offered by the 5 elders was even higher. 300 billion Baileys, 10 Seraphim. If you calculate it this way, the price of 1 Seraphim is 300 billion Baileys of research and development funds. This is really a huge profit. I'll go back later and be able to research new abilities again. Xia Yu's mood was naturally extremely good. Ha ha ha. That's great, Marshal Zhang Guo. It just so happens that I have one more thing I need to report to you. Afterwards, Xia Yu reported what was happening in the underwater prison. What? After hearing Xia Yu's words, Zhang Guo's eyes were also shocked. Are you sure you can succeed? The risk is just too great. If it was any other opponent, it would be fine, but this opponent is Barrett, the descendant of the devil. Zhang Guo said in surprise. Chapter 60. Barrett, since when did children call the shots in the Navy? Don't worry, Marshal Zhang Guo, my Seraph has the ability to heal automatically. Defeating Barrett is definitely impossible, but as long as Barrett can't kill my Seraph in one blow, my Seraph can hold him back. Moreover, the Admiral-level Seraphim actually has another function. Xia Yu said with a smile. Another feature? A gleam of light flashed in Zhang Guo's eyes. Xia Yu always brings surprises to myself. Zhang Guo has already noticed that. It seems to be a good thing. What do you mean, Doctor? Xia Yu? What do the other functions mean? Zhang Guo asked expectantly. Well, my general-level Seraph, in a life-or-death struggle, if he is damaged, as long as he survives, he can be strengthened. That is to say, he can continue to grow stronger in battle. However, there is a maximum limit to how strong one can become. No matter how strong an Admiral-level Seraphim is, it will not be stronger than the Pirate King level. But even so, there is absolutely no problem in entangled Barrett. Xia Yu said proudly. Can it continue to grow stronger? Zhang Guo opened his mouth wide and was suddenly shocked. Page 51. That's Pirate King level. If a Seraph really reached that level, wow, maybe even I will find it hard to deal with it. There was shock and excitement in Jan Guo's eyes. In that case, okay then. After a little thought, Jan Guo finally agreed. In the underwater prison, Xia Yu simply said a few words and then handed the Den Mushi to Magellan. Magellan, just do as Dr. Xia Yu says. Jan Guo said very seriously. What? Exclamation. Magellan, upon hearing this, jumped up on the spot. Marshal Jan Guo, did I hear you correctly? Do you really want to gamble with them? Magellan said in disbelief. That's right, Magellan, just do as Dr. Xia Yu asks. If anything happens, I will go to the 5 elders and apologize. Jan Guo said with narrowed eyes. Magellan, upon hearing this, swallowed his saliva in shock. All right, Marshal Sengoku. Copy that. Then Magellan gave a direct answer to the mole beside him. Marshal Warring States agreed. Magellan said with a twitch of his mouth. What? The mole's expression became even more terrified. Although he is not the warden of the underwater prison. But I know these criminals very well. Even if it was me, a veteran vice admiral, facing these criminals on the 6th floor, I'm afraid no one could defeat them. I can't even defeat any one of them. If I let them all out, the whole world will be in chaos. What's even more terrifying is that these criminals were all captured by the Navy. If I let it go, I'll definitely hate the Navy by that time. I'm afraid the entire naval headquarters will be threatened. Although the current Navy has Seraphim, the number is still not large enough. Red Earl, World Destroyer, Barrett, giant battleship, king of Misruli's countless major criminals, some of whom were so powerful that they were directly erased from history, are bound to bring considerable damage to the Navy headquarters in the future. This mole was completely speechless. In sharp contrast, at this moment in the big prison, the criminals cheered. Ha ha ha. That old dog Jan Guo, did he faint? He actually agreed to this kid's request. Ha ha ha, it won't be long before I can get out. The big barrel's face flushed with excitement. I have already decided that the first thing I will do when I go out is to drink a lot of wine for 3 days. Crocodile also sneered. I didn't expect my luck to be so good. After so many days in prison, I figured out a lot of things. When I get out, I won't be planning to steal the country anymore. Only the strength of one's own ability is the hard truth. Crocodile narrowed his eyes slightly and began to plan his next move. The king of evil government, the 9-tailed fox, the big wine barrel, and others all showed playful smiles. Ha ha ha. This brat is so arrogant. Barrett, but he's a beast that even we fear. If you go against him, you won't last 10 minutes. We are finally free. Ha ha ha. When I get out, I'm going to kill tens of thousands of civilians to liven things up. Ha 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 ha. It's been so long since I've tasted freedom. Wait till I come. These big criminals all showed ferocious expressions. Sea Knight Jinbei also widened his eyes. I can't believe that the Warring States Marshal would listen to the words of an 8-year-old child. Brother Ace, it seems we can get out. The man next to Seaman opened his mouth slightly and said in disbelief. Ace remained silent for a long time, as if he was thinking about something. Even the Red Earl narrowed his eyes tightly, feeling a moment of surprise. This doesn't seem like the style of the Warring States period. Could it be that does this little brat have any other secrets? Surprisingly, he could be so loved by the Warring States period. Barrett, the whole person, laughed unscrupulously. Ha ha ha. Did you hear that, Magellan? Even Marshal Sengoku has spoken. Don't hinder our fighting power. Ha ha ha. I can't believe the Navy has fallen to this point. This kind of thing can actually be decided by a little kid. Ha ha ha. Isn't this God's way of helping me escape from this huge prison? After laughing, Barrett's eyes suddenly became serious. But I hope that your Navy won't go back on its word and make the world laugh at you. Barrett suddenly narrowed his eyes and said solemnly. Chapter 61. Releasing Barrett. After hearing Barrett's words, Lieutenant General Mole and Warden Magellan were both stunned and then showed angry eyes. You bastard, what nonsense are you talking about? Lieutenant General Mole roared. The Barrett in front of me is so arrogant. Xia Yu, however, still looked calm. He came to Barrett's prison cage and spoke in a baby voice. Don't worry, you won't win, Barrett. I've already agreed. You must defeat the yellow flash within 10 minutes to win. Otherwise any other situation will be considered your loss, and if Barrett loses, all of you must collect your blood obediently. Xia Yu said with a smile. Seeing Xia Yu's childish appearance, Barrett's mouth immediately grinned. What an interesting little kid, isn't it? Just 10 minutes to smash a robot. Don't even mention 10 minutes, even if it's 1 minute. I, Barrett, can definitely do that, haha. If I really lose, ha 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 ha, don't worry, kid, I, Barrett, will never break my promise. If anyone refuses to admit defeat, I, Barrett, will personally take care of him. Barrett, who had never expected that he would lose to a mere robot, said smugly. When the prisoners in other prisons heard Barrett's words, they all cheered. There were constant whistles and the noise was extremely loud. Barrett, I'm watching you. Yes. This is the kind of confidence we need. Let these damned Navy know that their display of power is only due to the shackles on our hands. Just go up there and smash these robots to pieces, ha 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 ha. On the other side, in the marshal's office, Sakaski, who was standing aside, had a serious expression on his face. Marshal Zhang Guo, do you really want to do this? Will it be dangerous to do this? Sakaski said worriedly. Warring State's glasses reflected a bright white light. Admiral Seraphim can become stronger. Besides, I can't afford to offend Dr. Xia Yu, but don't worry, I'm not stupid enough to let those criminals escape just in time. Garp is back too. You, the 3 admirals and some vice admirals, go to the main gate of the underwater prison. If any criminals escape, close the gate immediately and sound the alarm. By then, the entire Navy will be dispatched to prevent them from escaping. Zhang Guo breathed a sigh of relief and said seriously, as a naval marshal, I do have some tricks up my sleeve. Just now the 5 elders, after learning about the effects of the Admiral Seraphim, told me that I must meet all of Xia Yu's requirements. Xia Yu is a favorite in the eyes of the 5 elders and the future of the Navy, so he naturally wouldn't be stupid enough to offend him. However, it is naturally impossible for me to take the risk of letting such vicious criminals escape. Even the slightest risk cannot exist. After hearing what Marshal Zhang Guo said, Sakaski licked his tongue. I understand, Marshal Sengoku. As expected, Ginger is still spicy with age. Age 52. If I ever become a marshal, I'll definitely learn this technique. Then Sakaski, carrying Warring State's orders, went to the underwater prison. In the underwater prison, in a noisy environment, the yellow flash walked into the prison where Barrett was, and lasers shot out from the hands of the yellow flash. The shackles on Barrett's hands were finally burned and broken by the power of the flash fruit. As the shackles sounded, Vice Admiral Mole and Magellan became extremely nervous. The opponent is the war maniac Barrett, whose combat power is at least at the level of the 4 emperors. He was released just like that. If the yellow flash is not strong enough, even with the strength of the jailers of the entire underwater prison, it may be difficult to withstand Barrett's attack. Kill the admirals of the Navy and all the powerful men at the level of the 4 emperors, and you will be the strongest. Releasing this guy is like releasing an ancient demon beast. After the shackles that bound him were opened, Barrett, dressed in military uniform, with a sturdy build, ghostly eyes, and earmuffs, finally walked out of the prison feeling the freedom of walking back and forth. Barrett narrowed his eyes tightly and clenched his huge fists. I'm finally free, Barrett sighed. All the prisoners at the scene also burst into cheers. Barrett, it's up to you. Beat the yellow flash to pieces. If I'm free in the future, I'll follow you. Every criminal was extremely excited. After hearing the words of the criminals in the underwater prison, Barrett showed a hint of disdain. Become my follower? Sorry, I don't need a partner. No matter what kind of enemy we encounter, I alone am enough. Barrett snorted coldly and said arrogantly, After Roger's death and all the betrayals he's experienced, Barrett has only believed in his own strength. The weak should die. This is Barrett's life motto. If Barrett has any goals after being released from prison, kill the admirals of the Navy and all the powerful ones at the level of the 4 emperors, and become the strongest one yourself. This is Barrett's ultimate goal. The arrogant Barrett turned his gaze again to the yellow flash in front of him. HMPH, I'm Barrett. I won't lose. Isn't it just a robot that can use Conqueror's haki? Robots, they are robots. Real combat is more than just Conqueror's haki. It also involves the combined use of physical strength, armament haki, observation haki, and even devil fruit abilities to maximize one's combat power. And I, Barrett, have reached the pinnacle in all aspects. Barrett said ferociously with a grin on his face. Next moment a terrifying fighting spirit instantly emanated from Barrett's body. Xia Yu narrowed his eyes slightly. Sorry. Barrett, I'm afraid you're going to lose this time. Yellow Flash, attack. Chapter 62 Yellow Flash vs. Barrett. Following Xia Yu's order, the Yellow Flash number came out directly. Barrett sneered again. Ha ha ha, interesting. Come to think of it, this is my first time fighting a robot. I hope that when the time comes, after I smash this robot in front of me to pieces, you, the Navy, will keep your promise. Barrett sneered. Lieutenant General Mole and Magellan were both stunned and showed embarrassed expressions. To be honest, until now, they didn't think that the Yellow Flash could last for 10 minutes. After all, Barrett is a terrifying monster that hunts the 4 emperors. Maybe he is even more difficult to deal with than Kaido. I'm afraid many functions of this newly developed robot haven't been improved yet. Is it really possible to defeat the Devil's descendants? Accompanied by all kinds of suspicious thoughts, the battle has already begun. The battle begins. Xia Yu spoke directly. As Xia Yu spoke, the big criminals in the prison began to celebrate again one by one. Haha. In less than 10 minutes, we can release it. Freedom, the taste of freedom. I've been longing for this for a long time. Each of them stared at the Yellow Flash with malicious intent, waiting for Barrett to strike with a powerful punch and smash the robot into scrap metal. However, the scene that these criminals imagined did not happen. The sound of Xia Yu starting to fight had just fallen. The Yellow Flash activated its flash ability. A yellow flash appeared, and it instantly appeared in front of Barrett. He kicked Barrett hard in the face. What? Barrett, looking confused, his expression changed slightly. I really didn't expect that this machine would be so fast. Just now, I was a little puzzled as to why this robot looked so much like Kizaru, one of the 3 admirals of the Marine headquarters. Now it seems that this robot actually possesses the abilities of Kizaru. Is this the speed of the flash fruit? But fortunately, I have already captured it with my observation haki. Barrett immediately activated his armament color. The pitch-black armed color domineering wrapped around Barrett's shoulders, crossed in front of his chest, making a defensive posture. Boom, accompanied by a loud muffled sound. At this moment, his hands and feet collided, and a terrifying force instantly came from Barrett's arm. Feeling such a strong force, even Barrett's face suddenly changed, revealing a look of surprise. Is the power so terrifying? Exclamation Barrett. I'm totally confused. I really didn't expect that a robot could actually reach the combat power of a general. The next moment, Barrett, with his massive body, was kicked back dozens of steps before finally coming to a slow stop. The noisy shouts of encouragement from the criminals suddenly stopped. They all widened their eyes, their faces filled with surprise and disbelief. How can this be? Really? He's Barrett, the descendant of the devil, and the strongest trainee on the Pirate King's ship. Not even Pluto Rayleigh could defeat him. How could he be beaten like this by a robot? No wonder this little brat wants to make a bet with Barrett. It seems that this robot is really not simple. If that's really the case, with the Navy's current power, I'm afraid it's unfathomable. The pirates out there are probably having a hard time. Everyone was shocked, swallowing their saliva, and discussing in disbelief. Even the Red Earl's eyes, which had been slightly narrowed before, suddenly opened and a ray of light suddenly emanated from his eyes. I guess I was careless, Barrett. This guy, a long time ago, was able to rival the Pirate King's vice captain, Pluto. Really? The strength is definitely not that simple. It should be Barrett who underestimated the enemy, said the Red Earl lightly. After hearing the Red Earl's words, the criminals who had been discussing in shock finally quieted down. It turns out that I underestimated the enemy. So far so good. Barrett, after being blasted back several steps by the robot and stopping, actually burst into laughter. Ha ha ha. Surprise, surprise, I didn't expect that after being imprisoned in this prison for so long, even my body has begun to age. But don't worry, I will recover soon. Barrett licked his lips and said with a ferocious face. After that, Barrett did some weird stretching exercises, pinching all his bones until they crackled. However, within a few seconds, he had instantly recovered to his peak state. Age 53. If you have the guts, come again. Barrett roared. The next moment, the yellow flash attacked again without any hesitation. Within the vast underwater prison, 2 afterimages, one yellow and one black, sped at breakneck speed. Every time the 2 afterimages collide, a huge noise is produced. Fortunately, the building materials of the underwater prison are made of high-strength sea stone bricks. Otherwise, such a terrifying collision, the aftermath alone would be enough to shatter the surrounding walls. Rumble, rumble, exclamation. The entire underwater prison was filled with the sounds of violent collisions. 1 minute, but it's already up. The big talk you said before has been exposed, Barrett. Xia Yu said with a smile. Chapter 63 Ghost Spirit. The yellow flash has the ability of the flash fruit, and Barrett's own physical fitness is extremely strong. In addition, they all use top-level armament haki and observation haki, so for a while, they are evenly matched. Seeing this scene, Lieutenant General Mole opened his mouth slightly. Not only is his speed on par with Barrett's, his strength is even on par with Barrett's. From this perspective, this robot has truly reached the level of a general, Lieutenant General Mole said solemnly. Magellan's shock was even more obvious than the Mole's. After all, Vice Admiral Mole had witnessed some of the Yellow Flash's capabilities while in the Naval Science Department, but Magellan is different. He has never even seen a basic Shichibukai-level robot. All of a sudden, a robot was seen fighting Barrett, the descendant of the devil, on equal terms. Magellan, now he can't even feel the pain in his stomach. His eyes were extremely dull, his mouth was opened into a European shape, and his lips were trembling as he spoke. This robot actually possesses all of Kizaru's combat power. What kind of powerful brain could produce such a terrifying thing? Magellan sighed and said in shock. The combat power of a robot is even more terrifying than that of the warden of this underwater prison. Isn't this a bit too exaggerated? If this goes into mass production in the future, will I be unemployed? After all, this robot can live without food, drink, or salary, but humans are absolutely unable to do this. Magellan smiled bitterly. The criminals in the underwater prison all opened their eyes wide with extremely strange expressions. Is this really just a robot? It can actually fight Barrett, the descendant of the devil, on equal terms. If the Navy were to mass-produce such a terrifying robot, I'm afraid the entire ocean would be in turmoil. Looking at it this way, this robot can easily last 10 minutes. Damn it, I've been tricked by the local Navy again. Barrett, don't hold back. Don't you still have some ghost energy that you haven't used yet? Kill this robot with all your might, or we'll be imprisoned in this dark prison for the rest of our lives. The criminals in the underwater prison roared. They finally had a chance to go out, but they didn't want to waste it. At the same time, at the gate of the underwater prison, the 3 admirals, Vice Admiral Kizaru, Garp, and others have all gathered to prevent emergencies. In front of them, a huge screen, using the surveillance video worms in the underwater prison, was broadcasting the situation inside the 6th floor. Even Budajai Zhangguo, who was in the marshal's office and reviewing documents, opened the video. The criminals on the 6th floor of the undersea prison are so important that no mistakes can be made, so to be on the safe side, it is safest to monitor the situation inside and take countermeasures at any time. When they saw the scene in the video, they all showed expressions of joy. I didn't expect that. It's just been released and hasn't been upgraded yet, but it's already so terrifying," Jian Guo said with great joy and surprise. "Originally, I had some doubts about Xia Yu's Admiral-level robot. After all, I just saw this robot collecting blood from Kaido's body during the melee. That blood was collected with the help of Carp, Sakazuki, and others. However, as to the combat capability of this robot and whether it can reach the standard of a general, it is still an unknown." Sakazuki also had an excited look on his face. "How dare you fight Barrett, the descendant of the devil, to such an extent? As expected of you, Doctor Xia Yu. If we continue to mass-produce 10 cherubim of this level, haha. I'm afraid that by then, the whole world will change. The future of the Navy depends on you, Seraph." Sakazuki's face was filled with extreme excitement. When Kizaru saw that the Seraphim that Xia Yu was researching was so powerful, he couldn't help but reveal a hint of pride. "Ha ha ha. As expected of my younger brother Xia Yu. Ha ha ha. See? The robot based on me is evenly matched with Barrett." Kizaru opened his mouth wide and said excitedly, "Before, I felt a little embarrassed that a robot with black skin looked exactly like me. Looking back now, this is simply my own honor." Aokiji also showed a look of admiration. "I didn't expect that the Seraphim studied by Dr. Xia Yu could not only reach the speed of light, but also the speed of light. In terms of combat power, it's equally terrifying. As expected of Dr. Xia Yu," Aokiji said with admiration on his face. "The Navy has such a top scientist, which is a great fortune for the country." On the battlefield, after fighting with the Yellow Flash for several rounds, Barrett still did not achieve any significant results. He was furious. "Who am I? I am the descendant of the devil, Barrett. If it weren't for the Pirate King Roger, who died too early, I want to surpass the man of One Piece. Now I'm actually fighting a robot, and it's hard to tell who's who." Barrett felt very embarrassed about his reputation. The next moment, Barrett knocked out the attack from the Yellow Flash with a punch, and his eyes became stern. In an instant, a murderous aura suddenly emanated from Barrett's body. This is Barrett's unique ghostly aura. It can greatly improve Barrett in all aspects of combat. The terrifying ghostly aura filled the entire 6th floor of the underwater prison, making everyone feel an icy chill that seemed to come from the underworld. Is this the legendary ghost energy? Something that can be compared to Haki. It's even less than the awakening of Conqueror's Haki. Crocodile, feeling the cold air around him, was suddenly shocked and said seriously. Chapter 64, Seraph is defeated. The big barrel narrowed his eyes tightly and showed an excited smile. "Ha ha ha. As expected of you, Barrett. No wonder you are called the descendant of the devil. Just from this ghostly energy alone, one can sense that Barrett's own combat power has increased dramatically. From this point of view, we can definitely defeat this damn Seraph," said Big Barrel proudly. Jian Guo and others who were in front of the video screen also noticed Barrett, and their entire combat state suddenly changed. Everyone showed a worried look. Not good. This guy Barrett actually used the ghost energy. I'm afraid his fighting power will be even more terrifying than before, Sakazuki said, extinguishing the cigarette in his hand. "I don't know if Seraphim can hold on for the remaining 9 minutes. If I can't make it, I'm afraid I'll have to take action in advance. No matter what, I must not let the criminals on the 6th floor of the undersea prison out." Aokiji and Vice Admiral Tsuru both had solemn expressions. They were also aware of the power of ghost energy, a terrifying energy that could greatly enhance a person's combat effectiveness. However, there was no serious expression on Jian Guo's face. Before Xia Yu said that this Seraph can evolve. "I don't know if it will evolve in the face of Barrett's ghost energy," Jian Guo said with anticipation on his face. On the battlefield, after activating his ghost energy, Barrett's speed and strength reached the extreme. Barrett gathered all kinds of power, including domineering color, armed color, ghost energy, and physical skills, on his fists and launched a burst of attacks towards the Yellow Flash. Boom 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 exclamation after a few punches, with the help of ghost power. The yellow flash was beaten back repeatedly. Page 54. The criminals on the 6th floor were delighted when they saw Barrett's powerful fighting ability after he activated his ghost energy. Ha ha ha. Barrett, good job. Just like that, smash this damn robot to pieces. Let these Navy officers see that we pirates are not to be trifled with. The criminals around were shouting. Barrett became even more proud, his face darkened, and he punched the yellow flash again. The force of this punch was so terrifying that even the air seemed to be about to explode. Boom! Exclamation! A terrifying punch landed heavily on the chest of Admiral Seraph. Even with a body like King Kong, the power of this punch was enough to directly smash the yellow flash into pieces. Pieces of parts were smashed out of the yellow flash's body. The yellow flash was smashed and sent flying backwards. Finally, the entire machine collapsed onto the 6th floor of the underwater prison. Sizzling, there was a huge hole on his chest. It was Barrett's fist that caused it. Upon seeing this scene, Lieutenant General Mole standing nearby suddenly widened his eyes. Seraphim was actually injured. Lieutenant General Mole said in shock. This was the first time he had seen the robot Xia Yu was researching. He was shocked to see it injured. Magellan also opened his mouth wide. Is this the power of Barrett's ghost energy? The thing I was most worried about actually happened. In this case, if all these criminals were released, I am afraid the whole world would be in chaos. Even Ace was shocked. Back on Bana Island, the small Seraphim could even resist Blackbeard's acupuncture points, and so Ace was still optimistic about these killing machines. Unexpectedly, after just a few minutes, they were directly defeated. Are these Seraphim too weak, or is Barrett too fearful? Is this the father he refuses to acknowledge, the trainee on his ship? The strength is indeed terrifying. Drought Jack finally showed a look of joy. Anyway, this robot also participated in the previous battle against Kaido. Boss Kaido, someone has finally avenged you. Even the Red Earl's eyes flashed with a light. Sure enough, robots are robots. Once you face a truly powerful opponent, you'll be defeated quickly. The Red Earl raised the corners of his mouth slightly, revealing a smile. In this case, after being imprisoned for so many years, can I get out? After all these years, it's rare for the Red Earl to be in such a good mood. At this moment, the faces of the senior naval officers who were watching this battle on the big screen suddenly darkened. Garp's eyes almost popped out of his head in surprise. You were defeated so quickly? Aren't these Seraphim very powerful? Garp was completely stunned. He had witnessed it with his own eyes before. The Seraphim of the 7 Warlords of the Sea, worked together to beat Akainu badly. And just now in the battle with Kaido, I was still very satisfied with the yellow flash. Vice Admiral Garp, the person they are facing is, after all, Barrett. Perhaps to you, Barrett, he poses no threat. But to us admirals, he is quite capable. He's an extremely dangerous guy. Aokiji smiled bitterly. Sakazuki, who was standing aside, instantly became displeased when he saw this scene and clenched his fists tightly. I think we should just rush in. Subdue him immediately, Barrett, and put him back in custody, Sakazuki said with an angry look on his face. The yellow flash has now been destroyed. The Magellan and the Mole are no match for Barrett. Therefore, the best strategy now should be to control Barrett before he releases the other vicious criminal. Sakazuki was about to start his own action when he was stopped by Lieutenant General He. Okay. Sakazuki looked at Vice Admiral Tsuru with a puzzled look on his face. Lieutenant General He, what do you mean? If we don't control Barrett quickly, we'll be in trouble. Sakazuki frowned and said angrily. Akainu, look at the big screen. Lieutenant General, he said to Sakazuki with a look of surprise. Chapter 65. Seraphim also has ghost energy. After a slight hesitation, Sakazuki looked at the big screen again at the same time. Zhang Guo, who was in the marshal's office, also looked over with a very curious expression. This is what Xia Yu said. Surprise. This is simply too exaggerated. Zhang Guo said excitedly. Inside the underwater prison, Barrett, who had beaten Seraphim almost to a pulp with one punch, looked very proud. HMPH, even though this guy was troublesome, I still managed to defeat him. Maybe you should fulfill your okay? Exclamation and many more before he could finish his words. Barrett's eyes suddenly fixed, revealing an expression of shock. The yellow flash, who had been knocked to the ground by Barrett, recovered in just a moment. Those broken parts that were scattered everywhere turned into liquid and flowed again in the chest of the Seraph. This is exactly the recovery method designed by Xia Yu based on the Terminator. Then, when the yellow flash stood up, an even more terrifying scene appeared. A terrifying and eerie aura emanated from the yellow flash. Feeling this terrifying aura, the Red Earl's eyebrows suddenly raised, revealing an incredible expression. Impossible. This is a ghost energy that even I haven't mastered. It's just a robot and it learned it after just one simple fight with Barrett. The Red Earl's lips trembled slightly, and the atmosphere of the entire underwater prison became extremely weird. The criminals who had been clamoring for Barrett to beat up Seraphim and let them go were now completely dumbfounded. This robot, it's okay if it can be domineering. Even the owner of this extremely rare ghost energy can do it. Is this robot naturally capable of ghost energy, or did it learn it on the spur of the moment during the battle just now? Crocodile swallowed his saliva, his eyes widened, and said in disbelief. The Big Barrel, the Nine-Tailed Fox, the King of Evil Politics, and others opened their mouths wide, shocked and speechless. They were the ones who were making the most noise before, but now, they are all completely withered. Drought Jack's eyes were wide open, and the expression on his face was one of extreme horror. This horrifying recovery ability. He's definitely comparable to Lord Kaido. What's going on with this robot? Why is it so terrifying? Drought Jack was stunned, and a tingling feeling of horror instantly surged into his heart. Even his own boss, the so-called immortal Kaido, the speed at which his own wounds healed was no match for the robot in front of him. It's really shocking. Page 55. At this time, Jan Guo, who was in the marshal's office, had a look of shock and ecstasy on his face. Ha ha ha. This is the surprise that Xia Yu mentioned. You even learned Barrett's ghost energy? This horror has no learning ability. I'm afraid no one in this world can match it. Ha ha ha. This is indeed a machine you developed, Xia Yu. Jan Guo's mouth was almost stretched to the sky. According to Dr. Xia Yu, these robots have a maximum limit on their combat effectiveness. But Jan Guo also knew that even so, it would not be difficult to upgrade these general-level Seraphim to the Emperor level. In this case, if we could have 10 such general-level Seraphim, let them grow and develop, and cultivate them all into Emperor level, how can we play with those pirates? Sakaski and others who were at the gate of the underwater prison saw this scene and were all shocked. They all swallowed their saliva. Ghoul, you actually learned Barrett's ghost energy. This yellow flash is too abnormal, isn't it? Akiji widened his eyes and said exaggeratedly. Sakaski even stopped thinking about attacking. Possesses such terrifying learning and recovery abilities. To be honest, with the current Barrett, it is impossible for him to defeat the yellow flash within 10 minutes. Even with unlimited time, it would be very difficult to defeat this robot. Garp and Vice Admiral Tsuru smiled at each other, and the shock in each other's eyes could be seen. Ha ha ha. At this time, Kizaru opened his mouth wide and laughed loudly. Ha ha ha. You are worthy of being my brother, Xia Yu. You all saw it. The Seraphim based on me is so terrifying, Kizaru said with a glance and smugly. It seemed as if the Seraph represented his own combat power. Our navy is so lucky to have a terrifying scientist like Xia Yu. Pirates, you're in trouble. Lieutenant General, he raised the corners of his mouth slightly and said with relief. On the battlefield. After learning the ghost energy, the yellow flash's speed and strength have reached the extreme. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. In addition, his own flash fruit was originally a speed-type fruit. Therefore, the speed of the yellow flash was so fast that it was about to overtake Barrett. This made Barrett frown tightly. The more he thought about it, the angrier he became. He had originally wanted to use this battle to demonstrate his terrifying fighting ability and show off in front of these criminals. I really didn't expect that now I would lose face. Hateful. Ghost energy is my unique fighting style. How can you, a mere robot, learn what I'm doing? The angry Barrett had a large amount of domineering aura gathered on his fists, which kept wrapping around his arms. The terrifying fighting spirit rose again. Chapter 66 Protecting Xia Yu. Seeing Barrett's appearance, Warden Magellan's heart couldn't help but tighten. This is the hegemony Hacky. Barrett, is he so angry that he wants to unleash all his fighting power? Magellan sighed. Lieutenant General Mole's eyes narrowed slightly. Be careful to protect Dr. Xia Yu. What if Barrett cheats and suddenly changes his attack method to attack Dr. Xia Yu? Even if you and I resign, I'm afraid it won't be enough to apologize, Lieutenant General Mole said fearfully. Magellan finally reacted. The Navy hurriedly stopped in front of Xia Yu and protected him layer by layer. The criminals in the underwater prison also showed a hint of joy after seeing this. If Conqueror's Hacky isn't why nuts, an attack method only a true sea warrior would use. I just don't know if it will be useful this time, Crocodile said expectantly, his eyes twinkling. Even if he has learned the ghost energy, in terms of strength, Barrett, who knows how to use the domineering color, can definitely crush this robot. So, Crocodile rekindled his hope. Big Barrel also looked delighted. In this way, if I can destroy this damn robot in one go, I still have hope of getting out. Big Barrel also showed his expectation again. Jan Guo, who was in the office of the Navy Marshal, saw Barrett's attack and his eyes narrowed. In this case it looks like Barrett, this guy, is angry. The real battle begins now. Jan Guo's eyes narrowed and he said seriously. Garp, Vice Admiral Seraph and others in the underwater prison also became serious, one after another. After all, from the beginning till now, only 1 minute has passed. And Barrett, who was able to become the most terrifying intern on the Pirate King Roger's ship, its own combat capability is definitely not as simple as it appeared before. Everyone was staring at the big screen call. Exclamation! The violent fist wind made a powerful sound in the air. A punch wrapped in domineering aura slammed heavily towards the yellow flash. Under the terrifying force, the air around them seemed to explode. Everyone's eyes were cast over. Boom! Exclamation! This punch came down heavily, and the sound that resounded through heaven and earth was heard again. A huge hole suddenly appeared on the floor in front of Barrett. Saw such a scene. Crocodile and others, who had been full of expectations before, showed surprised expressions one by one. Such a terrifying punch, yet you managed to dodge it? Where exactly? Drought Jack's mouth also curled up. I knew that getting out of this underwater prison would not be an easy task. Barrett, be careful, there's someone behind you. Jack the Drought suddenly discovered that the yellow flash suddenly appeared behind Barrett, and he exclaimed. Vice Admiral Mole, Magellan, and others also discovered the location of the yellow flash and were all shocked. Is this the speed of the yellow flash? As the warden of the prison, I didn't even notice his existence. Magellan was shocked. Lieutenant General Mole was even more amazed. Just now, the yellow flash disappeared directly from his sight. When he reacted, he found that he was already behind Barrett. This terrifying speed can be called displacement. Karp, Sakaski, and the others all had a look of delight on their faces. He actually dodged it. Ha ha ha. I knew that this Seraph would never be that simple, Sakaski said excitedly. He recalled once again the time when he fought against the Seraphim. Now, when I think about my battle with the Seraph, all that's left is pride. With this speed, even if I were fighting it, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to detect it as expected of a general-level Seraphim. With this level of combat power, I'm afraid calling him a general-level Seraphim is an understatement. Page 56. I think he has the strength of the 4 emperors, Garp said excitedly with a slight smile on his face. Now, are we going to win the game back? Aokiji also looked excited. On the battlefield, the yellow flash was located behind Barrett, and a large amount of domineering color gathered on its huge palm. He hit Barrett hard. Barrett felt his fist hit the ground, and his eyes were obviously stunned. The next moment, he felt a terrifying force coming directly at him from behind Barrett. Shocked again, this is Overlord color entanglement. Boom! Exclamation. Barrett, who activated his ghost energy, reached the extreme in agility and strength. At the critical moment, he turned around and punched towards Kizaru's domineering fist. A huge muffled sound shook the entire sixth floor of the underwater prison under the two forces. The two men were shocked and retreated several steps. It's actually comparable to Barrett's full-strength punch. Even the Red Earl narrowed his eyes tightly, with a look of horror on his face. The expressions on the faces of the other major criminals became even weirder, and some even began to doubt Barrett's fighting ability. Damn Seraph. As expected, it can even use the Conqueror's haki. If that's the case, then Xia Yu's brain is probably even more terrifying than Vegapunk's. Why would such a brat appear and create such a terrifying robot? From now on, the Navy will probably become the sole overlord of the sea. Do you think it's possible that Barrett has been in prison for too long, and even his combat effectiveness has deteriorated? Damn it, if this happens, is Barrett going to lose? I'm afraid we'll have to stay in this dark place forever. After hearing the words of the big criminals in the prison, Barrett was so angry that his mouth was shaking hateful. Who are you guys looking down on? The veins on Barrett's forehead bulged instantly, and his expression became extremely ferocious. Chapter 67 5 Elder Stars. Seraph. Unexpectedly has ghost energy. I became famous at a young age. Even when he was a teenager and joined the ship of Pirate King Roger, he was called a terrifying devil. Even if there was a lightning strike from Pluto on the ship, he could still fight it out when he was young. In order to capture him, the Navy directly launched the demon-slaying order. It is enough to see that no matter whether it is pirates or Navy, their fighting talents are extremely terrifying. This is where his title of being the descendant of the devil came from. Over the years, I have become accustomed to the feeling of being feared. When has your fighting ability ever been questioned? At this moment, Barrett completely fell into madness. The huge fist, under the blessing of ghost energy and wrapped in the domineering color, smashed heavily towards the yellow flash in front of it. Fists like raindrops came crashing down heavily. Rumble, rumble! Exclamation. Each punch was powerful and heavy, and the speed was extremely fast. Although in terms of strength, Barrett's fist is much stronger than Yellow Flash's. However, the Yellow Flash relied on its speed and occasionally launched its laser bullets to harass Barrett. The punches that could be dodged were easily dodged, and those attacks that could not be dodged were all taken on. Barrett's advantage is very weak. The two of them actually ended up in a stalemate. Barrett in this state is actually evenly matched with me, Crocodile said with a look of disappointment. I had originally thought that I could be rescued and released by Barrett, but now it seems that this wish is about to be dashed. Oh no, it seems that the situation is not good. The nine-tailed fox also showed a heavy expression. Barrett, there are 2 minutes left. Xia Yu looked at the stopwatch and said with a smile, 2 minutes. Exclamation. The expressions on the faces of the criminals in the underwater prison became even more serious. They had been paying attention to this battle and forgot to calculate the time. Everyone's faces turned gloomy in an instant. The feeling of giving them hope and then letting them down is so unpleasant. In sharp contrast, Lieutenant General Mole and Prison Warden Magellan all showed expressions of surprise. It's incredible, Doctor. Xia Yu, the robot you are researching is simply terrifying. Lieutenant General Mole was excited. The sight of a Shichibukai-level Seraphim was already enough to shock the Mole. Now seeing the performance of an Admiral-level Seraphim made the Mole feel like he had opened the door to a new world. This terrifying power has probably already reached the threshold of the 4 Emperors. Vice Admiral Mole, I wonder how many more Seraphim are there like this? Magellan asked curiously. Such a terrifying killing machine. If there were 2 or 3 of these, the Navy's combat effectiveness would be enhanced to an epic level. As the warden of the underwater prison, he has relatively little information about the Naval Science Department compared to the mole at Naval Headquarters, so, out of curiosity, I asked Lieutenant General Mole about the situation directly. For now, there is only this one. However, Dr. Xia Yu also said that after developing the first one, subsequent manufacturing will be relatively much easier in the future. There must be at least 10 killing machines of this level. Lieutenant General Mole answered truthfully. After hearing what Vice Admiral Mole said, Magellan froze in place, his throat feeling dry. Gulu, there are actually 10 such terrifying killing machines. Magellan kept swallowing his saliva, with a look of shock on his face. I really didn't expect it. Doesn't this mean that the Navy will have 10 more admirals? Be good, this terrifying fighting power. If the Navy had a robot group, they could just send out 10 Admiral-level Seraphim, and they would probably be able to destroy an entire 4 Emperors group. This is horrible. No, after this battle is over, I must apply to the Warring States Marshal. I don't even think about the Admiral-level Seraphim. I have to get myself a Seraphim of the Shichibukai level, so I can enjoy it. This is much more reliable than my own subordinates, who are weak in combat and lazy. Boom! Exclamation boom on the battlefield. The battle between the two has entered a white-hot stage. Every impact of a punch produced a huge noise, and the dust on the roof of the entire underwater prison fell down piece by piece under this horrific bombardment. On the other side, at the office of the 5 elders in the Holy Land of Mary Geoise. At this time, the 5 old men at the pinnacle of power actually looked at the surveillance from the 6th floor of the underwater prison. What they wanted to do was, of course, to see how the battle went against the general-level Seraphim. After all, in the Warring States period, words are not enough. Now, they heard that Seraph was currently in the undersea prison, engaged in a fierce battle with the legendary pirate, Devilbeard. They naturally wouldn't miss such a good opportunity. As soon as they received the message, they connected to the surveillance and turned on the live video broadcast inside the underwater prison. Then, what came into view was the yellow flash fighting the Devilbeard in a fist-to-fist fight. This general-level Seraph is indeed just as Sengoku said. It's true. He looks almost exactly like Kizaru. The old man holding the knife squinted his eyes and said observantly, "Of course. The yellow flash is mainly using Admiral Kizaru's bloodline factor. For someone like Kizaru, it's normal. In the future there will be more Admiral-level Seraphim like other characters, researched and developed by Xia Yu." The curly-haired old man murmured. While the 2 old men were discussing, the blonde old man's eyes suddenly flashed with a glint of light. "Look, this Seraph actually has ghost energy," the blonde old man exclaimed. Chapter 68. Chapter 68 Fusion Fruit. What? After hearing the words of the blonde old man, the old men around him all looked over. Later, it was discovered that the Seraphim actually possessed ghost energy. That's strange. If this Seraph can use ghost energy, why didn't Jan Guo report it to us? This doesn't look like the style of the Warring States period. The old man with a long white beard said suspiciously, squinting his eyes. The old man with a mustache suddenly brightened up his eyes. "Do you think that he and Barrett might have learned this killing machine temporarily during the battle?" The old man with a mustache said in surprise. "Learned it temporarily? That makes sense," the blonde old man said in surprise. Gulu, even the 5 elders were swallowing their saliva continuously at this moment. Ghostly, that kind of stuff is not easy to learn. That is an existence that even they, as martial gods, cannot control even if they want to. If this Admiral-level Seraphim can really learn other people's moves, then its future combat effectiveness will probably surpass the Admiral level. Thinking of this, all the old men were shocked. If Xia Yu could really deliver 10 Admiral-level killing machines, then it's conceivable that the future Navy would not be afraid even of the 4 Emperors. Even if you are in a bad mood, it is completely possible to destroy 1 or 2 of the 4 Emperors' groups. In this way, this moment will be recorded in history. As long as Xia Yu's technology can be used by their world government's rule in this world will continue from now on. This is incredible. Kizaru's younger brother, Xia Yu. This kid is incredible, ha 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 ha. Even Vegapunk is far inferior to him. The old man with a long white beard said in surprise, stroking his beard. Just when they were all in a state of surprise, the performance of the Seraph once again amazed them. I saw that on the screen. Seraphim actually used the domineering color entanglement. The 5 old men were delighted again. If that's the case, I'm afraid this machine has already reached the Imperial level. It's really surprising. Let's see if he can defeat Barrett next. The 5 old men all looked pleased. In the huge underwater prison, Magellan showed a shocked expression on his face. He really didn't expect. There are only 2 minutes left. I'm afraid we have won this bet. It's worthy of being a robot developed by you, Doctor. Xia Yu. Magellan looked at Xia Yu with admiration and spoke excitedly. I'm afraid this battle is going to be won. Doctor. Xia Yu, your general level Seraphim is truly terrifying. I was able to tie with Barrett, the devil's descendant, at full strength. Magellan said excitedly. However, Xia Yu did not show any excitement. I'm afraid it's a little too early to be happy now. After all, Barrett's fruit ability has not been released yet, Xia Yu said lightly. On the battlefield, when Barrett heard Xia Yu say that there were only 2 minutes left, the expression on his face seemed to freeze into frost. The expression on his face was filled with extreme anger, so much so that the ghost energy in his body was also extremely cold. Barrett was so angry that he actually laughed. I never thought that facing a mere robot would require me to use all my strength. Xia Yu, you kid are really terrifying. Barrett suddenly looked at Xia Yu and said seriously. Barrett has always pursued his own personal combat power. Regarding technology, he has always held a dismissive attitude, but now, Xia Yu really taught himself a good lesson. This is also the first time that Barrett has expressed his praise for scientific and technological talents whose combat effectiveness is almost 0. The next moment, the surrounding area suddenly underwent strange changes, and the entire underwater prison began to shake. A large number of bricks actually fell off and gathered on Barrett's fist. After seeing this scene, the criminals who had been dejected before now showed happy expressions. This is Barrett's devil fruit ability. The parahuman type, fusion fruit, can transform everything around it into Barrett's body. There are not many people in the world today who can withstand this terrifying ability, Crocodile said in shock, his eyes wide open. The 9-tailed fox, the big barrel, and the others all showed their arrogant smiles again. Ha ha ha. I really didn't expect that Barrett's fruit ability would be so terrifying. Even in the underwater prison, he can still use the power of his devil fruit. It seems that he has awakened his ability. Even the Red Earl showed a look of surprise. If Barrett could use his devil fruit ability to destroy the entire Yellow Flash in one go in this battle, Barrett can still win the final victory. Thinking of this, the usually silent Red Earl's heart began to beat faster. Some are happy and some are worried. At this time, Lieutenant General Mole saw Barrett's performance. He just widened his eyes with an incredible look on his face. Barrett actually used his devil fruit ability in the underwater prison. Oh no, I don't know if the Yellow Flash can make it through this. Vice Admiral Mole frowned tightly and said solemnly. Magellan also showed an exaggerated expression. I knew it. This Barrett is not a pushover. If it gets hit by Barrett's terrifying giant arm, I'm afraid this machine will be completely destroyed. By then, even this machine's recovery capabilities, no matter how terrifying, will be powerless to save the situation, Magellan said in horror. When Magellan thought about the possibility that all the criminals in the underwater prison would be released directly because of this incident, he couldn't help but feel a sense of panic. If that happens, the whole world will be in chaos. Chapter 69. The 5 Elders panic. The criminals cannot be released at this time. The 5 elders, who were in power, saw the scene before them, and each of them showed an expression of fear. Boofs. Barrett is the best newcomer on Roger's pirate ship. This guy's fighting ability is terrifying. Although Seraphim is very powerful, it's hard to say what will happen if he meets Barrett, said the old man with a knife, squinting his eyes. The 5 elders are very familiar with this terrifying monster on the pirate ship of Pirate King Roger, who was able to fight Pluto Rayleigh on equal terms when he was a teenager. The key is, I heard that Dr. Xia Yu and Barrett have a bet. If Barrett defeats this Admiral Seraph, the criminals in the underwater prison are about to be released. The blonde old man smiled bitterly. This is really too crazy. Originally, looking at Dr. Xia Yu, an 8-year-old kid, he was relatively honest. I really didn't expect that Xia Yu would be so bold. What? After hearing the words of the blonde old man, the other old men all showed expressions of horror. What did you say? Release all the criminals. Isn't this nonsense? Said the old man with a long white beard in surprise. This kind of thing is absolutely not allowed. Every criminal on the 6th floor of the underwater prison, if released, will bring enormous trouble to the world. Isn't this bringing disaster to the world? The curly-haired old man said in shock. At this time, we are inside the underwater prison. Barrett's arms have already gathered, and almost all objects on the 6th level can be gathered. Although it's partially affected by the sea stone, but it's more than enough to deal with a robot like you. Barrett roared. The next moment, a combination of fists that covered the sky and the sun blasted towards the yellow flash. The entire underwater prison began to tremble continuously because of Barrett's terrifying attack. Even the criminals on the 5th and 4th floors were surprised. Page 58. The Demon King on the 530 floor showed an incredible expression after feeling the terrifying shock. If I'm not mistaken, it's probably a criminal on the 6th floor. Someone is trying to escape from prison. The Shemale King swallowed his saliva and spoke with trembling lips. I still remember that the last time there was a jailbreak from the underwater prison, it was that guy named Golden Lion. At the beginning, the Golden Lion cut off his own legs and caused an almost devastating blow to the Navy before he escaped. This time I really don't know who will escape from this underwater prison. The criminals in other underwater prisons also showed excited expressions. These criminals are not good men and women. After hearing this terrifying tremor, everyone cheered excitedly. The whistles continued, and the entire underwater prison was in chaos. We'll see who's trying to escape from prison in a moment. Ha ha ha. When you leave, take me with you as long as I don't have to stay in this place. I'm willing to work like a slave. On the battlefield, a huge fist attacked instantly. In order to protect Xia Yu's safety, Magellan and the mole retreated to the side, and the two of them protected Xia Yu in the center. Rumble exclamation! A heavy punch came down, and the entire underwater prison shook. At this moment, a large amount of ruins suddenly spread everywhere. At this moment, everyone's hearts were in their throats. This blow, if not, hit the ground of the underwater prison. If it were outside, those city walls that were not reinforced with sea stone would probably be able to destroy a small island. Crocodile, his face full of excitement. As expected of you, Barrett. Is this Seraph scrapped? Crocodile looked expectant. Big Barrel, Nine-Tailed Fox, and others also looked towards the place where Barrett had bombarded before. If you can let me out, even if it means letting me follow you, I'd be willing to do that. Ha ha ha, Barrett. The criminals all raised their lips, ready to go out. Even the Red Earl suddenly sat up. Barrett, this guy is not simple in the underwater prison. He can actually release such a terrifying fruit ability. It seems Barrett, his own ability, has already awakened, the Red Earl said excitedly. At this time, the sailors were all anxious, like ants on a hot pan. Dr. Xia Yu, what should we do? Can the yellow flash defeat Barrett? Vice Admiral Mole looked worried. Xia Yu smiled bitterly. What he created was a general-level Seraphim, not a king angel. It is impossible to defeat a top-level warrior like Barrett, to be honest. This time, Seraph was able to improve his combat effectiveness in the battle with Barrett, which was already very good. Thinking about defeating that terrifying devil descendant Barrett is simply a dream. Of course we can't win. Xia Yu said seriously. What? In this case, won't these big criminals all be released? Prison Warden Magellan swallowed his saliva and showed a panic expression. At this moment, the sailors were in extreme despair, and the expressions on everyone's face were extremely solemn. Just when everyone thought it was all over, Xia Yu, however, spoke again in a baby voice. Let it out. I'm sorry, I've never thought about letting these evil criminals go. Chapter 70 Barrett, Lost. Even if my Seraphim can't defeat Barrett, I still have the yellow flash, which is faster than Barrett and has better recovery capabilities. Barrett, it's impossible for you to destroy my yellow flash, Xia Yu said with a pout. On the battlefield, Xia Yu's words just fell. The next moment, the yellow flash appeared in front of Barrett. Crocodile, the whole person, is just stupid. No way. Such an attack that blocked out the sun and the sky, and he actually dodged it. Crocodile's lips turned pale with an expression of disbelief. Barrett's transformed attack, whether its speed or power, they have all reached their limit. In this situation, you actually told me that this robot escaped. Big Barrel and others were completely stunned. They had no doubts at all. If they had faced that attack just now, even these great pirates would have been killed instantly. This is Barrett's strength. It is really unimaginable that a robot can be so terrifying and dodge this move with almost no blind spots. The Red Earl, who had been silent all this time, suddenly spoke at this moment. Wrong. No, I dodged it instead. This strange robot calculated the method to inflict the least damage. With the power of the demonic energy and the flash fruit, this robot is simply too fast for Barrett. At most, they'll be injured, but to disable them all at once is almost impossible. But, as long as it's not destroyed all at once, this robot can complete its own healing. Is this the power of technology? The Red Earl said in shock. Barrett also realized immediately that his attack only injured the Seraph, and he became completely furious. Even though there are restrictions on the venue, I have to admit this time I really used 100% of my strength. In this situation I still haven't managed to defeat this damn robot in front of me. Barrett, there's only 1 minute left. At this moment, Xia Yu said with a slight smile on his face. The Mole and Magellan seemed to have seen some miracle. One by one revealed. I heard the laughter of the sailors and the sound of Xia Yu counting down. Barrett, at this moment, has completely lost his mind. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. I'm Barrett, the man who will surpass the Pirate King, Roger. How is it possible that I can't even defeat a mere robot? Barrett said angrily, veins bulging on his forehead, gritting his teeth. Afterwards, he attacked the Seraphim in front of him without hesitation. The huge fists, like raindrops, kept hitting the yellow flash. Rumble, rumble! Exclamation! Each punch was so powerful that it caused the entire underwater prison to shake violently. If it were an ordinary person, I'm afraid that just the wind from the punch would be enough to kill them. However, the yellow flash, with its super speed and precise acceleration ability, was able to avoid Barrett's bombardment of its vital parts every time. Seeing Barrett's appearance, Crocodile, who was in the deepest part of the underwater prison, sighed and then closed his eyes again. Really, Marines, it is impossible to let Barrett go out so easily. This robot is so scary. Now, Barrett has fallen into a state of losing his mind. Needless to say, Barrett lost this bet. Sure enough, as time passed, Barrett, who had fallen into madness, was still unable to cause any fatal damage to the yellow flash. So, 10 minutes have all passed. Page 59. Barrett, it's time, Xia Yu murmured. After hearing Xia Yu's words, Barrett's raised fist finally stopped in midair. Barrett would never do anything that goes against his promise. Hateful. Asshole. Barrett's face was filled with anger as he stared at the yellow flash in front of him, lost in thought for a moment. I didn't expect a robot is so difficult to deal with. Barrett, will also lose a bet one day. Barrett stopped using his fruit ability and said unwillingly. Magellan, on the other hand, looked nervous. Barrett, According to the agreement, I need to put you in sea stone handcuffs again, and then put you back in the big prison, Magellan said seriously. A cold look quickly turned to Magellan. Even the warden of the underwater prison felt guilty. Barrett, this guy, is he thinking of escaping from prison? Barrett, remember the promise you made before I let you out, Magellan said with a serious look in his eyes. Magellan did not dare to be careless with this powerful man at the level of the 4 emperors. After a brief eye contact, Barrett finally withdrew his gaze. Humph, Magellan, shut up. I, Barrett, am not someone who goes back on my word, Barrett said angrily, then turned his gaze to Xia Yu, who was protected behind Magellan. An 8-year-old kid. Xia Yu, humph, interesting kid, I'll remember you. When I get out of prison, I will definitely visit you again, Barrett said arrogantly. Barrett, whatever nonsense you say, you will never get out of this iron wall. Magellan's face was filled with horror, and he quickly sent people to put Barrett back in prison. Meanwhile, the criminals in the underwater prison were still in shock. The spirit actually lost. It's just a mere robot. How could it be so terrifying? Crocodile swallowed his saliva, his lips trembling as he said in disbelief. Chapter 71. Red Earl, boy, what is your purpose in collecting blood? Originally, since I made the bet, I had already thought about my future plans after I was released from prison. But now, Barrett actually lost. Like a bolt from the blue, it completely hit Crocodile's body. This feeling of giving people hope and then destroying it is simply too cruel. Big Barrel's eyes were also shocked, and he clenched his fists tightly. Hateful. Why, I can obviously go out. This Seraph, how could it be so terrifying? Big Barrel said in disbelief. Barrett was a being that even he himself feared. Now, after 10 minutes, he hadn't even defeated a single robot, which truly horrified Grampus. The 9-tailed fox was completely dumbfounded. It's hard to believe that there are such terrifying robots in this world. This little devil. The 9-tailed fox looked at Xia Yu beside it. It's really weird. 8-year-old child, is this brain God's brain? They actually created a killing machine that can hold Barrett back. The 9-tailed fox was very curious about the Navy's current combat effectiveness. The Red Earl also completely closed his eyes. His own observation hacky had already seen the final result. But this robot really surprised me. If the Navy could have even 10 of these terrifying killing machines, I'm afraid by then, the entire ocean would be in turmoil at the same time. Jan Guo, who was in the marshal's office, saw this scene and looked very excited. Haha. As expected of a robot researched by Xia Yu, to be honest, I was really scared just now. I really thought I would lose the bet. From now on, Xia Yu, this 8-year-old guy really has never disappointed us, Jan Guo said excitedly. After all this time, the bet was made by me personally to Xia Yu. If they really lose, and Garp and his men can't withstand these vicious criminals, then as the marshal, I might be directly dismissed. This is completely contrary to his plan of a glorious retirement. After seeing the final result, Jan Guo finally breathed a sigh of relief. At this time, Garp, Sakaski, and others who were standing at the gate of the underwater prison also showed happy expressions. Ha ha ha. This is truly unexpected. I really didn't expect that this robot would be so terrifying. Aokiji looked excited. If this robot goes into mass production, I'm afraid even I would be laid off. Ha ha ha. Ha said jokingly. Kizaru even showed a proud expression. You see, the robot built based on me is simply a horrible monster. Roar. Kizaru opened his mouth wide with a look of confidence on his face. The 5 elder stars in power saw such a dramatic scene, and they all showed expressions of great surprise. I really didn't expect that this general-level Seraph would be so powerful. If that's the case, the 300 billion berries we paid to Xia Yu were well worth it. Yeah. Every year, whether it's the Navy, the CP organization, or the Celestial Dragons, I don't know how much they spend. But which one can be as worry-free as Seraph? Even though the funds spent every year are spent, they don't give us peace of mind at all. It can even be said that the results are minimal. But, with this Seraph, Every penny spent is a great reward. Inside the underwater prison, Xia Yu, who had done all this, naturally began his blood-drawing session. The first one was to arrive at Barrett's cell. Xia Yu showed a smiling expression. "Barrett, I accept defeat and hope you will cooperate." Barrett looked at the kid in front of him and snorted coldly. However, he honestly took out his arm, and in an instant, a large bottle of blood was collected. Then I went to other cells. The other criminals in the prison saw that even Barrett was cooperating obediently with the task of drawing blood, so they didn't say anything. After all, even Barrett couldn't deal with that terrifying killing machine. If they were to face it, they would probably be killed instantly. In the world of pirates, the strong are always respected. Even if it's a robot, it's the same. Therefore, these pirates cooperated very well when their blood was being drawn, all the way to the deepest part of the underwater prison. In the dim cell, the Red Earl actually stretched out his arm obediently. This made Xia Yu breathe a sigh of relief. This time, the blood collection plan of the underwater prison is to a large extent to collect the blood of the Red Earl. Only with the blood of the Red Earl, this legendary pirate, can a Seraph of the Pirate King level be created. And Xia Yu knew that it was basically impossible to get a criminal of the same level as Gu Gaozhiheng to cooperate obediently. However, if coercive measures were taken, Xia Yu knew in his heart that the yellow flash located here, even if combined with the mole, Magellan, and others, would not be a match for the Red Earl. The only thing we can do is to ask the Red Earl to cooperate obediently. However, criminals of this level usually cherish their reputation very much, even if he is a prisoner now. So Xia Yu came up with this way of making a bet with Barrett. Really. Chapter 72. Red Earl, very cooperative. I am willing to admit defeat. Finally, Xia Yu successfully collected the last bit of the Red Earl's blood just when Xia Yu breathed a sigh of relief. That lonely Red, who had been silent in the dim cage, suddenly spoke. "Boy, what on earth do you want to do by taking so much of our blood?" Chapter 72. Big Mom, Kaido, come and study Seraphim with me now that you've collected everything. Can you tell me? An ancient and vicissitudes of life voice came instantly. The legendary pirates were just legendary pirates. Even their voices were faintly imbued with an unquestionable dominance. Hearing the Red Earl's voice, even Magellan and Lieutenant General Mole were shocked and their eyes showed horror. This is a monster even more terrifying than Barrett. Red Earl, what do you mean? Both of them looked serious and asked solemnly. But at this time, Xia Yu spoke in a baby voice. Don't worry, Uncle Mole, Uncle Magellan, the blood has been collected now, so it's okay to tell them. Hearing Xia Yu's voice, all the criminals in the underwater prison looked in Xia Yu's direction. Naturally, they were equally curious about this matter. It's like this, Red Earl. Take the Seraph for example. The reason why it looks very similar to Kizaru and has Kizaru's abilities is because the Seraph was made using Kizaru's blood, Xia Yu said in a baby voice. And the yellow flash is only an Admiral-level Seraphim. To create a Pirate King-level Seraphim, you need more power and more blood. So, I thought of you. Of course, the most important thing here is your blood, Red Earl. Xia Yu said with a smile. What? Exclamation. After hearing Xia Yu's reply, everyone was so shocked that they broke out in a cold sweat. Originally, the Admiral-level Seraphim was already enough to surprise them. Who could have thought that Xia Yu would be so crazy and continue to develop Seraph? What's even more terrifying is that this time, the one being developed is actually a Seraph of the One Piece level. Doesn't this mean that once this thing is developed, except for the extremely mysterious Red Earl, this Seraph alone will be able to overwhelm all of them? Nourishing everyone took a deep breath. Well, blood collection, over. I'll take my leave now. Thank you all for your cooperation. Xia Yu politely greeted each of the major criminals in the prison, and then the senior Navy officers left immediately. Looking at Xia Yu, who had left for a long time, the entire underwater prison fell into an eerie silence. After a long time, Barrett was the first to speak. I'm afraid this era is about to change drastically. Even if we go out, I'm afraid we will be rearrested in the end. Barrett smiled bitterly. The other criminals were also shocked. An Admiral-level Seraphim isn't enough, and they're even thinking of creating a Pirate King-level Seraphim. This horrible little brat. I'm afraid he only wants to completely wipe out all the pirates in the world. He really is a scary guy. Doctor. Devil Kaido fled in a panic. The scars on his body were too terrifying. After flying to a safe area, he landed directly. Brew, it was Auntie who called. Okay. Kaido was confused when he saw that it was Big Mom calling. Could it be that this crazy woman is mocking me after knowing that I was beaten up in the Navy headquarters? Kaido thought in his heart, feeling very depressed. However, after so many years of friendship with the aunt, it is impossible not to answer the phone. So, Kaido answered Kaido's call directly. From the other end of the phone, the sound of an old lady laughing strangely came directly. Hey, Kaido, how about working together? Mum, said the aunt with a smile. Cooperation? You're not here to humiliate me? Hey, Big Mom, what do you mean? Cooperate with you to make desserts, haha. Kaido said jokingly. Hey, Kaido, watch how you talk to me. Don't forget, kid, you still owe me a huge favor. Big Mom roared. Kaido snorted coldly. This crazy woman always brings up matters of human nature. Hateful. But there really is no other way. I really can't do anything to the aunt because of this favor. Then tell me, what exactly is the cooperation method? Big Mom. Kaido tilted his head and narrowed his eyes and said, It's like this, Kaido. I heard that Drought from your beast's pirates was captured by the Navy. The ones who caught him were some robot kids. Mum. Big Mom laughed strangely. Hearing Kaido's angry face, it turned out that this crazy woman called him this time just to humiliate him. When Kaido heard this, the veins on his forehead suddenly bulged out. Big Mom, if you come to mock me, I'm about to hang up. Kaido roared. After hearing Kaido's words, Big Mom didn't dare to continue provoking Kaido. After all this time, I really came here for cooperation. Previously, although the Vinsmoke family had agreed to help him study the Seraphim, there are still many things missing. For example, Caesar's devil fruit technology and Quinn's mechanical transformation technology. And both of these technologies require Kaido's support. Big Mom's eyes finally became sharp. That's right, Kaido. Our Vinsmoke family's cloning technology can clone Seraphim. Big Mom said bluntly. Okay. After hearing Big Mom's words, Kaido was completely shocked. Others may not know about these Seraphim, but Kaido is absolutely aware of their combat power. According to Doflamingo's intelligence, Dressrosa was liberated because of those damned Seraphim. When I was at the Marine headquarters, I saw with my own eyes that machine that looked like Kizaru's Seraph, and how terrifying it was. His combat capability is at least at the level of a general, so it's impossible for Kaido to say that he is not jealous of these Seraphim. Chapter 73 Whitebeard. The Navy actually has an Admiral Seraph. After hearing that Big Mom's Vinsmoke family was able to create Seraph, Kaido was no longer angry. Big Mom, is everything you said true? Kaido asked expectantly. If this is true, if I can get along well with Big Mom, I can also get dozens of Seraphs. Wouldn't my dream of becoming the Pirate King be realized? When facing the Navy, we are more confident. After hearing Kaido's words, Big Mom burst into laughter again. Alright legends, that's it for today. If you're ready for the next chapter, smash that like button and flood the comments right now. Remember, we've got 3 days to prove this story needs to continue. Subscribe so you don't miss the drop, and I'll meet you in the next audiobook.